Alright guys, so let's carry on with our next topics. Now this is, first of all, we should understand that this is not an easy course. It's not, this application is not a easy application. It's a very resource intensive application, the vCenter. So you're going to get a lot of issues and problems there. And the thing is that we can spend a lot of time on troubleshooting everyone's vCenter issues, and we will not be then able to cover all the critical topics of this course. Or we can try to, if the problem is small, then I can help you out. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do that. If it's solved, okay. Otherwise, wait for the video to come out and take your time to do the lab. I always start with that, because either you should be able to see all the topics being implemented, all the critical concepts being implemented. And if you have a recorded video of all the steps plus the concepts, then obviously anytime you can follow up. But if we go slow, then obviously we won't be able to cover the most important topics that are upcoming now. So let's get going. And I'll just go back to the topics. So guys, your quiz is also pending, the midterm quiz. So I'll try to make it as horrible and brutal as possible. Don't worry, it will be fun for me. It will be my pleasure. I'm just kidding. Okay. So anyway, I need to mark you for midterm quiz, obviously. So I need to give you a quiz to mark. And whatever we've covered till now, obviously everything will be coming in the quiz. When is that quiz? That is the question. So okay.
Not next week.
Not next week?
No.
Or yes, next week?
Really?
No, like why not?
Next week, maybe I become 1 hour late and I'm
okay,
going to office. It's in Mississauga, so maybe till I'm arriving to home, it's gonna be like 7 p.m. So.
Oh, okay.
That's
Then
why
guys, definitely next week then. So I'm just kidding. So yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, so there are even multiple suggestions for the quiz as well. One is that we don't put the quiz on our regular Monday, and we can put it on some other day and keep doing the labs, or we can put our quiz on the regular Monday. You give the quiz, and yeah, I can just adjust the time. Don't worry, it's just 1 hour. If you come back at 7 or 8, I can put it from 8 to 9 or 7 to 8. So I'm very flexible about that. So it's just I follow the popular vote there. That what is the popular vote? Hey, you want it on Monday? You want it not on Monday? Okay, can I quickly seek for clarification? Olatoli says, hello teacher, I need a clarification on something. Do we need VCA before we can take VCP exam? I'm reading the comments. VCP exam. No, we don't have to take VCA. VCA is not a prerequisite to give VCP, and anyone can be given before or after. And for VCP exam, do we need a class ID to show we have attended a training? Yes, you need a voucher to give VCP exam, and the voucher normally is given on at the end of the course. So by VMware officially, that voucher is given. So that's why we need to wait till the end of the course. But you can start preparing now, and so you should be ready as soon as you get the voucher. That's it. Go for the exam, and I'll tell you the whole details about the voucher and the exam and everything, right? So okay. Okay guys, so quiz next week, that's one thing. And should it be on Monday or some other evening of the next week? So that's something that you can just decide and let me know. And what we were talking about last time, so I'll just go for. So we have already configured our vCenter with the software SAN, and we need to go ahead with the rest of the topics. A lot of topics coming our way today. We'll try to cover virtual standard switch and also the vMotion, the migration, right? Excuse me. Okay, so let's get going with our topics. Hopefully you've started the machines, and because we have 16 GB RAM, majority of us have that, so vCenter is not really generous with us. It's not very nice with us. vCenter really requires a lot of RAM, and we're giving just 8 GB or 6 GB RAM. So when you start vCenter, if you haven't suspended and unsuspended, then and if you're starting the machine, then you have to wait like after you log in, you need to wait like 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes even 20 minutes, and then when you try, then it lets you start. Then it lets you log into the vCenter. vCenter is heavy, right? So last time we were able to create software SAN. I'll try. So this diagram that I'm gonna create here, or is it? It is already created. So we'll discuss about this topic here and check out what we were able to do and what next we need to do. Okay, so there are some. Deepshika says Monday should be fine. We have mock interviews lined up that week. Oh, okay. And but I am okay with what class decides. Okay, class, you need to decide. And I've put that. Do you want it on Monday, or we do regular labs on Monday and you need that on other days? The quiz, midterm quiz, right? Excuse me. Okay, guys, what we were doing till now, what we have done till now is we have server 1, server 2, hypervisor 1, hypervisor 2. We also call it ESXi host, or we just call it host as well in production environments, and or just hypervisor. So we have the two hypervisors. We installed the vCenter. We created the two data centers inside. The data centers include, we named them NYDC and we named them Tor DC, right? And okay, so in chat, Eris says Monday. Okay, so NYDC and Tor DC, and then there is inside or under the NYDC we added ESXi02 hypervisor, and under Tor DC we added ESXi01 hypervisor, and then we were able to connect our 3 disks that we created here as a software SAN. We formatted the disks, we converted them to iSCSI disks, and iSCSI is a protocol that provides storage over the network on Ethernet network and does not require fiber optics. So we just created 3 disks, we formatted them with NTFS, then we converted them to iSCSI disks, and then we just provided the IP addresses for each disk for the 2 hypervisors. So the 2 hypervisors are initiators and the target is server 1. We have discussed that too. Now these disks are there. On top of these disks, then we created data stores. On the top of these LANs, we created data stores. LAN 0 has DS0, data store 0, and then LAN 1 has DS1, and then LAN 2 has DS2, right? So we created all this, and now we need to go ahead. So let us go ahead. Let us end Saturday. No. Okay. Here we have now we can say the professional or minimum vendor best practice, that the SAN should be there, the LANs should be there, the virtual machines must never be created on top of a data store which is on top of a local disk. Virtual machines should be created on the data store that is LAN based or SAN based data stores, right? So that's what we achieved there. We were able to create actually a virtual machine there, and maybe we did not create last time, or maybe we did, but we don't have a screenshot for that. But the thing is that we were able to create the data stores. Now the next would be that once we have this vendor best practice implemented for the virtualization environment, whether you have Hyper-V or Zen server from Citrix, Hyper-V from Microsoft, or E6i hypervisors from VMware. So this is a must. Okay, Jaswinder, you are showing picture there. So if you get this error, so it's okay, you can just press OK. You know, this comes when you have suspended the machine in last class and you unsuspended now, so it just asks you to log in again to the vCenter, right? So press OK and then refresh the screen and try to log in again to the vCenter. And okay. So what we are going to do today, so we are going to discuss about the virtual standard switch, and also if we get time, hopefully we will cover the vMotion, or the migration of virtual machine from one hypervisor to another. So suppose this is, first of all, virtual standard switch. Just like a physical network switch, there is VSS, or virtual standard switch, as well, VSS. And virtual standard switch normally has VSS or equals virtual. So whatever I'm covering now, obviously this will come in the quiz. Virtual standard switch. And once we have placed the virtual standard, so what is virtual standard switch? Some details about that. Windows updates, just click close and just minimize that and ignore. Well, in production environment we would go for Windows updates, but here, yeah, you can ignore it. It might restart your server as well. So virtual standard switch, one VSS gets created when we install ESXi hypervisor for the first time. So a virtual standard switch gets created. Obviously, why it is created? For virtual machines to give networks. VMs can connect to VSS, virtual standard switch, and communicate over the network with each other and to the outside world, right? So like the internet. So this means that virtual machines cannot talk to each other if there is no virtual standard switch. Obviously there has to be a networking equipment, so this is provided by a virtual standard switch. So that's one thing. And second thing is that virtual standard switch has two major components. VSS has two major components, and those components are, okay, there's echo here. Actually, that's me. So, oh, come on, somebody's shifting house or stuff there, and so maybe you're listening to those sounds as well. Hey, cut it out, will ya? I'm just looking up and screaming this. So anyway, virtual standard switch, and what are the two components of virtual standard switch? So the two major components of virtual standard switch are One is your port group, and the second is Vm Kernel Port. What are those? Why are those there? And so one is the port group, and the other is Vm Kernel Port. Now, port group's main purpose is, or we can say only purpose is, it offers the VMs to connect to vSS, virtual standard switch, and communicate over the network. So the only purpose of port group is to let virtual machines connect to each other and to the outside world. If I just go to another diagram, then we'll okay. So suppose there's a ESXi hypervisor. This is ESXi hypervisor, ESXi hypervisor, right? And you have a virtual standard switch here. Now that virtual standard switch has two very critical components. First of all, how the networking really works in a hypervisor. So once you install ESXi hypervisor, you get vSS, we know that. But this virtual standard switch offers networking to the virtual machine. Okay, we get that. Virtual standard switch offers networking to virtual machine. So there's a virtual machine 1, virtual machine 2 here, and they have their own network interface cards. Okay, first of all, I'll just write that out as well. So suppose that's VM1 and this is virtual machine 2, right? So they need to connect. So obviously they have a VNIC, virtual network. This samosa type shape is actually virtual NIC, right? VNIC. So I'm just gonna call it well, it is also called VNIC. So virtual NIC, or virtual network interface card, or virtual network card, right? So these virtual network cards are going to let the virtual machines talk to each other over the network, obviously. So from this network card, the connection goes to the virtual standard switch. What component of virtual standard switch actually the virtual network card connect to? So that component is your port group. So virtual switch has a component called port group, and the main only responsibility of a port group is to let virtual machines talk to each other and to the outside world over the network, right? So port group. Now, why this name, port group? Now, many of the Cisco gurus here would have seen, or pretty much everyone must have seen already, a switch, right? Cisco switch. Suppose we go for Cisco switch. So what does Cisco switch has? It has ports. Oh, I actually downloaded that diagram here as well. Okay, copy, and so what does a standard switch or a physical switch has? I'm sure everyone must have seen this switch, physical switch, Cisco switch before. So it has ports, right? Each port is connected to a computer. So this port connects to a computer, this port connects to a computer, this port connects to a computer, and so on. So suppose you want to talk about all these ports here, right? So you can say that it's a group of ports for a physical switch, right? And this group of ports, suppose, will be connected to VLAN 2, those who know what is VLAN, and this group of ports will be connected to VLAN 3. If you create different VLANs, the computer is connected to this port and the computer is connected to this port, they cannot talk to each other anymore when you create different VLANs, virtual LANs, or further segmenting of the LANs, right? So what happens here is that port group is just a simple group of ports where virtual machines can connect, and it can take how many computers? One port group can take 128 VMs connection, right? Each port group can take 128 virtual machine connections. So there are just two I created there, but maximum it can go for 128 machines that can talk to each other. Now port group, what is the other purpose of that? Okay, we get that virtual machines connect to port group, which is inside virtual standard switch, and it's like a, with port group they can communicate over the network. But what else can we use it for? So port group, you can create a sales port group, suppose, right? So all the sales department virtual machines, suppose there are 10 sales department virtual machines, maybe 10 VMs, right, of sales department. So you can create a port group called sales DEPT port group or sales port group. Maybe marketing department also has their virtual machine, so you can go for MKT port group. So you can see that we can organize with the help of port groups as well, right? 5 VMs of marketing department, right? So first thing, it helps virtual machines communicate with each other over the network. Second thing port group does is you can actually make, just like if you go for Active Directory and you create a container there, right, or an organizational unit. So port group also serves as a component which you can use to organize the virtual machines of different teams, different branches, different departments as well. But that's not the only reason for port group. It goes much deeper. And what is that? Port group also offers lots of features. So if we go for the features, VLAN feature, port group offers VLAN feature, port group offers security feature, redundancy, and I'm going to show you how all this, bandwidth control, width control, whatever I'm typing here, whatever we are discussing, obviously that's going to come in your midterm exam. So I'll try to make it as tricky and and trickier as possible. Anyway, so port group also offers VLAN, security, redundancy, bandwidth control, and failover. So it offers a lot of features. So suppose you connect sales department's virtual machines there, and the sales department guys say, actually, can you just create a VLAN for our several machines? Or sales department guys say that we don't want our virtual machines to communicate with marketing department virtual machines. So you can set a port group for marketing department with a different VLAN number and a port group for sales department as different VLAN number, and they will not communicate with each other as well. Okay, Xiang says, we wish you make it easy. Nothing is free in this world, come on, man. And you know the price. We talk in samosa currency right now, right? But anyway, this is the more hard work we do, the better our job chances are as well. So, okay, bandwidth control and failover. So there are many features of port group there that we will be exploring there. So first of all, we need to know where is the port group created in virtual standard switch in our lab, and then what are the extra features? Can we create multiple port groups? Yes, we can. We're going to do that too. And then we're going to go for then exploring all the features, other features of a port group. Now, these are the same features that are available in a virtual standard switch. On a virtual standard switch level, you also see the features related to security, redundancy, bandwidth, failover, right? Oh, also, yeah, Jaswinder actually said correctly, load balancing, exactly. Load balancing as well, I forgot to mention that. Thank you for that. And so these are many features in port group that are also available on virtual standard switch level. And other than this, what about the other major component, which is Vm Kernel Port? Vm Kernel Port. So this is also very important component of a virtual standard switch, and that is if you, for Vm Kernel Port or Vm Kernel Adapter, we also mention or say it as Vm Kernel Adapter. So what happens here? You have it offers networking configuration for many of the advanced features of vCenter. Now, what are those advanced features for which it offers the network side of configuration for those features. So those are you can say fault tolerance, FT. This is like failover. You have one virtual machine at one host, second virtual machine on the other host, and then you are like you can failover. So for that you need for vMotion, which is migration of virtual machines, very interesting. You need Vm Kernel Port for that. For vSAN, that is cheaper SAN, because SAN itself is a very expensive solution, but you can create a highly available storage on top of your local disks of your hypervisors. When we reach that topic, we're going to discuss in detail about that too. So and then management network. Now that's another feature that lets us connect management network. Vm Kernel Port lets us remotely connect to a hypervisor. If this feature is gone, we cannot connect from a vCenter to a hypervisor. We cannot connect to a hypervisor from our browser. Remember that we were putting https://esxi01, your first name esxi01, and we were able to connect to the hypervisor. So thanks to management network, VM kernel adapter, VM kernel port, that we are able to do that. You disable that and we cannot remotely connect to a hypervisor. If you can connect to a hypervisor, obviously, so what can we do? So there's Eris is saying, will it be multiple choice questions? Okay. So we talked about VM Kernel Port, we talked about the port group as well, and we're going to do some labs on that as well. But since I started that topic of quiz as well, so it will be all true, false. So hence I can make it all questions I call as traps, true, false. And second thing is quiz will be open book. Third thing is you cannot backtrack, which means that if you've answered a question and clicked next, and then you said, oh no, it was something else, but you cannot go back. It's gonna be 25 questions, 1 hour, right? And that's one of the main things there. What we have covered till now, in videos, in this OneNote, right, will come in the exam, right? And we can also you will have 2 attempts, but you cannot, but only first attempt will be marked, but only first attempt will be marked. Why? The second attempt option is there if you get an error in your machine, for which you must have a screenshot. Otherwise it's kind of screenshot, right, for the error, because of which you need a second attempt. So you need to really contact me for that. Okay, otherwise it's first attempt only. Okay, so as far as it isn't 20 questions in 20 minutes, we're safe. Yeah, you're right. It's 1 hour, 25 questions. So hey, anyone did that? 20 questions in 20 minutes. So anyway, you're still getting like 2.5 minutes per question. Oh, Linux. Woohoo. Wow. Okay, you know what? Thank you for giving me that idea. So I can change that from 25 questions to 1 hour. Thanks to Mahe, now I know that we can do that too. So everyone, just congratulate Mahe. She reminded me of that. So okay. So there was a threat there. Okay, which I take that threat seriously. No samosas for me, right? You just hurt my feelings. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead. So guys, now we're talking about this VM kernel port, and so we're just going to remind that You're a nice person. You're not. So 20 questions, 20 minutes. So that's a very good idea. I mean, I'm still thinking about it. So yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and we're going to talk about that. And so, guys, it's just my fault. I just blame her for that. Just kidding. Okay. So, guys, now we can come back to our topic. And what we need to say here is port groups. Make sure that you remember for the quiz and obviously for the job interview. That's the main thing, right? That you need to make sure that port groups are used to connect virtual machines to each other. Port groups are used to connect virtual machines to each other. VM kernel ports are used to offer networking for the advanced features that you introduce in your network, right? So vMotion is a migration. Its networking part is going to be implemented by a VM kernel port. So I'm going to show you how to configure a VM kernel port. I'm going to show you how to configure a port group. So let's go back to our environment and explore vSS.
Amir,
Yep.
the number of port group creation, is there any limitations under one AXSI?
So it's one port group can have 128 virtual machines.
Yeah,
And then
we know that, but you
128
told
port
me.
groups as well.
Sorry?
128 port groups total, and per port
Okay.
group 128 virtual machines, VMs, right?
Okay.
Right. Okay. So that's a very good, interesting question I'm gonna ask in the exam. Thank you, Etisham, for that, giving me an idea. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So guys, try to ask more questions, and that would be a good idea for me to make as difficult questions in the exam as possible. Okay. I should have a villainous laugh here. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to go for the configuration of this, right? So I'm just gonna go back to my environment. You know what? I always power off by suspending, but last time I forgot to do that. So I gave it a good 20 minutes. It's been started since 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna log in now, and I'm just gonna log in from all my machines, and let's go to inside the vCenter. So I'm just gonna quickly log in now from my first machine and then the second machine now. Otherwise, I'm not sure why I did not suspend the machine, but please, the second machine, always suspend it because it takes a long time for the services to start. When we give low RAM, right? Even if you give 32 GB RAM, that's also low RAM. It's that much memory intensive application, right? Okay, so server 2. And server 2. So I'm just gonna try to go inside my vCenter. Hopefully everyone was able to go for it. But yes, vCenter can be very, very nasty. In last course, I had to ask a student to let me connect to his virtual machine remotely, to his laptop remotely, and then continue the next class, because in 1 or 2 classes my vCenter also just got nasty and was not letting me log in. So it could happen to anyone, anytime. Just be very, very be very, very careful. But maybe it's not your choice. if the services in the background are not starting, what can we do, right? We can just try to troubleshoot that. So guys, you can see that I got the Adobe Flash Player. Again, I'm never gonna click on this and go to its website and install that. That never works, right? So I need internet connection, which I don't have right now. So I'm going to go to internet connection. I'm just going to go to local server and go to local server here, and then go to Ethernet to enable my second network card that is connected to NAT, that provides us internet connection when we need it. So I'm just going to click that Ethernet 0, and the second network card that is connected to NAT is disabled. So I'm just going to double click and enable that. Oh, okay. Again, no suffer. Hey. So here Ethernet. So I got internet connection here because the yellow triangle is gone, and I need to make sure that this Adobe Flash Player sign is gone. How do I make sure? We went through that in last class as well. I'm gonna right click here on the not secure, and then the flash is again blocked. So I'm just gonna drop down and allow, right? So I have allowed that flash, and I'm gonna click anywhere else here, and then it just shows me the reload option. So I'm just gonna click reload. Well, the internet has to be there for you to click reload. Once it is done, I no longer need internet connection now, so I can just very well go back here and right click and disable my second network card that was providing me internet connection. So I'll click that disable. We don't need internet all the time. In production environments, in companies, in data centers, servers normally are always disconnected from internet. Servers are normally always disconnected from internet. So I'm just going to minimize that. Now I'm going to just go for username, which is administrator@vsphere.local, and the password. And well, now it's just going to log in, and we can just go for the virtual standard switch. So Ramanju says you are using NetPlus machines, not Humber. Is it okay? Is it okay for me? Yeah, I'm using NetPlus machines instead of Humber. Hey Ramanju, you just reminded me of this, and that's not okay. So you know, I was about to scream at seeing this. This is an advanced topic, and thank you, Ramanju. So okay, I owe you all samosas now, and that's why I was thinking that why did I shut them down? I'm sure I was. I remembered that I suspended them. Suspended machines are here actually. Ramanju, thank you. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry, I'll shut down. You know what? These machines are actually the problem machines, so I'm just gonna power off. Never power off, guys. Never power off. These are the machines that were problematic. I forgot to delete them, and now I just, you know, I'm teaching the same course on at NetPlus as well in Scarborough. So they're okay. I owe you all samosas. I'm just gonna send you all pictures of samosas, tasty ones, right? Try not to taste them. Okay, sorry. Okay, so because they're suspended, so I'll be there in no time now. Because the services are just frozen, so I'll just go back there. Sorry about that. Okay. Resuming. Oh, okay. So there's a bargaining going on. Staff says no samosas, but you can make the exam easy. You know, exam. Come on, man. Exam is something that you know. That's where I can have a villainous laugh, like that, right? Or like vampires have blah 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 blah, right? That one. So the exam will be as tough as it gets, but it's gonna be good for you. You're gonna learn from that, right? You can Google it. Good luck. Okay, and you can just you know, it's open book. Okay, I'm back, and I'm in the vCenter. I just have to log out and log in again, right? Because I unsuspended, so the services were frozen. So here, I'm just going to refresh because I unsuspended the machines. So it's gonna kick me out now. I'm gonna kick myself in now instead of logging in. So Sylvester says, as long as it helps with the certifications and interviews, I'm happy. There you go, man. There you go. And it's definitely going to be helpful for you. Hopefully, you find it helpful. Okay, so I'm there, and so guys, where I was going was the standard switch. So where it is, right? I'm just gonna click this. Hosts and clusters. I'm going to click that hosts and clusters. First of all, let me just make it full screen. I'm going to make it full screen. and I've gone to host and clusters. I'm gonna click the host here, right? Deepshika, you can try to restart and wait for 10 to 15 minutes as well. Maybe you've done it already. So there's that ESXi. Now, once you have ESXi, click there. Then you can see on your right side, getting started, summary, monitor, configure, permissions, VMs, resource pools, data stores, networks, right? But if you click the ESXi1 and then click configure, that's where all the configurations are. And first we went for storage last class, so you are very familiar with that area. But now we're going to go for under the networking, the virtual switches. So let's click the virtual switches under the networking. Once you click the virtual switches under the networking, so on the right side you will see the default switch, and the name of that is vSwitch 0. It's always vSwitch 0. And also you cannot really Raman, you can just press yes on that. Okay, and yes again, and refresh. Oh, or you can refresh the whole browser. So virtual switches, and it's one day, Monday or Sunday, it's gonna load for me. Really? Okay, I'll click something else and then click back. Oh, it's still loading, so you can see here, still loading for me. So the application is kind of heavy, so it just, you know, at times it's just nasty. Oh, Death Channel, it's okay, Death Channel. Take rest and get well soon. Guys, you can see that this error came to me as well, which Raman was showing me. See this? So if this comes, it's just asking you to log back in again. I'm just going to click allow here. And this happens in production environments as well. The browsers are, from time to time, they kick us out just to make sure that, hey, are you the one who is really the administrator? So just try to. So I'm just going to refresh that. And if it asks for, again, the username password, so I'll just put that. So I refresh the whole browser, this one, right? And I'm going to click advanced and go to proceed to this. And okay, that's channel. So I'll just go for username password, right? So small ABC, got ABC ship 123, ship 123. Yeah, click advanced and oh, there you go. Man, SAF deserves like, I think 50 samosa back, right? Okay, so instead of Bitcoin, there should be samosa coin. What's wrong with me? Okay. All right, so I'm logged in finally, and it's just kicking me out for one reason or another. So I'm back again, and I have clicked that hypervisor and configure. After that, I have clicked virtual switches. Oh, Addis is also, Addis, you're also getting this status 500. Wow, that's virtual, you know, so many pictures coming up. Guys, the thing is, it just needs more RAM, and we can't offer that much. So if you have given already, you know, enough time, so when you restart after that, try to give it 15 to 20 minutes. The more time, the better. And then if it doesn't start, for some students in previous courses also, they restarted again and it worked after waiting again for 15 to 20 minutes. Otherwise, try to understand what's going on and to follow the video and try to keep troubleshooting. But if you are left behind, then follow the video and submit the screenshot. Just let me know that you were not able to do this. Just email me or WhatsApp me that I was not able to do this, so that's why I'm submitting the lab late or screens late, right? Okay, so so here vSwitch 0, and in vSwitch 0 you can see, so try, guys, try to understand here first. If you, so for some reason you are not able to connect, you know, you can just follow anytime later as well, but try to understand, plus if you're troubleshooting, but don't miss this one, right? So vSwitch 0, And you can see that this is a virtual switch diagram, and on the right side of the virtual switch is the physical side. On the left side of the virtual switch is the software side, the virtual side. When I say right side is the physical side, what does that mean? So in a production environment, in data centers, in the companies, you will have these as a physical servers. You know, this hypervisor will be installed in a physical HP, IBM, Dell servers. So this is the physical network card there of any of the physical server there. So it's gonna look like this when you see it from within the vCenter. And this is a virtual switch. Then on the left side is the virtual side of the switch. Okay, so there's a question, is the recording on? And it is on. All right. Okay, so now what is with the physical adapters? Yes, all the traffic coming from the hypervisor, I have two virtual machines here, right? So all the traffic coming from here has to go through this physical adapter, right? And second thing, you can see that there's a management network Vm Kernel Port. You can see that there's a Vm Kernel Port here, and there's a VM network. This is another box you can see, and this is normally a port group. The default name of the port group is VM network. You can rename it to whatever you want. Instead of VM network, you can sales virtual machine port group or marketing virtual machines port group. You can name it anything. But you can see also within this second box, the port group, this is called port group, where virtual machines can be seen. You can see a small arrow here. If I click that arrow, you can see that there are two virtual machines I have that are connected through this port group to the virtual switch and to the physical network adapter on the other side, right? So that is really interesting. So port group box is there, and then there is VM Kernel Port box is there as well. Now VM Kernel Port, remember what I was saying about VM Kernel Port? It introduces advanced features, or it introduces the networking for the advanced features. So which advanced feature is there that the VM Kernel Port is showing here? Now one of the advanced features, which is called management network, requires a VM Kernel Port to set it up. And the purpose of this management network is, and for the quiz also, remember that management network, the purpose of management network is to let us remotely connect to a hypervisor, the ESXi host, remotely connect to the ESXi host and manage it. So management network VM kernel port by default is already added. Suppose I ask a quiz question there for true false, that management network port is added manually by us, so it will be false, right? Oh man, now I cannot ask this one in quiz. Okay, anyway, I was just giving you an idea. So management network is feature is added with the help of VM kernel port, and it's an advanced service that lets us remotely connect to the hypervisor and manage it, right? Without that, vCenter cannot connect to a hypervisor, ESXi1, ESXi2, ESXi100. Suppose we have 100 machines, right? So now there's a physical network card, that is only one, right? Second thing is that there is a VM kernel port that we are not supposed to touch. It's okay. Because of this, thank you very much, VM kernel port management network. Thanks to you, we are remotely connected from vCenter to this ESXi1 hypervisor. So second thing is the virtual machines can communicate over the network because of this port group here. So what we can do first is, suppose scenario number one is that suppose you have here 20 virtual machines. They're all sending data inside, outside. Suppose there are 20 virtual machines and they're all connected to this one port group, right? Through this port group, all the data is going, and there's only one network card here that is sending and receiving all the data for those virtual machines. So that one network card giving service to 20 virtual machines is not really fair, right? So what we need to do is, first thing, we're gonna add a second network card here, and that network card will NIC team automatically. Anyone knows what's a NIC team? Anyone knows what is NIC team used for, or what is a NIC team? Yeah, NIC team is used for NIC teaming, NIC, NIC. So it's suppose you have multiple network cards here. Now again, that samosa like shape is the network cards here. Suppose there are 4 network cards. When you purchase IBM, Dell servers, so at that time you can order, okay, I need 8 network cards with it, or 12 network cards with it, so, or 4 network cards. So these are 4 network cards. Now traffic can go through, in this diagram I was supposed to say one more thing, that this virtual switch is connected to the network card, right? That's how the data is going from virtual machines to the port group, and from the port group to the network cards, to the virtual switch, and from the virtual switch to the network card. So this virtual switch is connected to a network card. How about now, if you have a huge amount of data going from here through the switch to one network card, and that's big, lot of data, right? So it can happen that this network card can be overwhelmed with data. It could crash, it could be corrupted, or simply the packets would drop because there is too much data going on. So if you team up the network cards, maybe you create a NIC team. It's not nicotine, it's a NIC team, and NIC team just means network interface card teaming, right? So team, so NIC team here, and once you NIC team, so you can use all the 4 network cards and combine their speed of sending and receiving data, as well as you achieve redundancy. So normally you achieve here LBFO, right? It's not LCBO, it's LBFO. So LBFO is load balancing and failover. So how is load balancing achieved? When you team up the 4 or 8 network cards or 2 network cards. So obviously you can balance the traffic between this network card, and then this network card and this network card. So they are all sending either equal amount of traffic in and out, right? And then failover is that if one network card goes down, the traffic is failed over to the rest of the network cards, and you can just run there during the weekend or in the evening, shut down the server, and just add another network card there, and then it will be joining the team again. So this NIC team is just network interface card team. So 4 cards power will be combinedly used, and it will offer load balancing and failover for the data. So that is called NIC teaming, right? So for that purpose, where I was talking about that, hey, one network card is not enough, because a hypervisor, this is an ESXi hypervisor, right? ESXi host. So its only purpose is to host as many virtual machines as possible, whatever its hardware allows, right? Maybe 10 virtual machines, maybe 20 virtual machines, and one virtual machine could be print server, maybe 200 people are connected. Second virtual machine is a web server, maybe 500 people are connected. Third virtual machine, maybe a SQL server with many big applications are connected to that. So that's a lot of traffic one hypervisor has to face, must face. When it's facing a lot of traffic, one network card is never enough, right? So that's why what we need to do is that we're gonna add a second network card here, and as soon as you add a second network card here, it's gonna automatically team up, and you're gonna see that. How you see that? This orange selected area here. But let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's go ahead with this manage physical adapter. There's a green icon up there. What we're about to do is just add a second network card for this particular V switch 0 for the hypervisor 1, right? So I'm going to go for this green button here, and then you can see that there's only one VM NIC. So the physical network cards are shown like this: VM NIC, and this is the first one, so it's VM NIC 0, right? Network card counting starts with 0. So let's click the plus sign because I need one more network card. So I'm going to click the plus sign, and you can see there are those 8 network cards that we added. So we can just select one network card here and press OK. Select one network card here and press OK. and K. So you can see that, oh, there are 2 network cards. Okay, that was easy. Nothing difficult about that, right? But there are more things here. Active adapters. This is called, this area is active adapter. Then there is standby adapters. Then there is unused adapters. So suppose you keep this VMNIC selected and click the blue arrow. Once you click the blue arrow here, the second NIC actually went down to standby adapters. Now, what's going on? What did we configure here? The first adapter will still take the traffic. The second adapter is just on standby and will not actually help take the traffic and send and receive the traffic because it's on standby, right? If you want it to also take the traffic and become a part of the team, NIC team, then you need to put it in the among the active adapters, right? And then if I still select it and click the down arrow button so it can go for unused adapters, now it is added but it's not doing anything. It's not even on standby, right? So that's what it's showing here. Obviously, this, if you are doing this, this means that maybe you already have 3 or 4 adapters here, and one you want to keep it as unused, and whenever you want, you can just make it standby or active adapters. So I'm gonna click that up again, and then up again. There's one more thing. Anyone knows that if it is doing LBFO now, if I have 2 network adapters, have I achieved LBFO, load balancing and failover? Did I achieve LBFO or not right now? How we get this pop-up window? Oh, Jaswinder says. So Jaswinder, see this? If you're on this screen, do you see this green one? So click that green one and then click this green plus sign.
Amir, I cannot see that green, but if I go to the manage physical network adapter, I can see that green. So it is not different?
So are you, actually I see your screen here, and this is your screen, right? All right.
Yeah.
And you're actually in the UI interface, right? The HTML5 interface. You're not in vSphere client, you're in UI or HTML5. We're all in vSphere client. So yours will be a little bit different all the time. And so your URL should end with vSphere client instead of just you and I, that is user interface. So I think it's just cached there, saved there. That's why you went here.
So what should I do? Should I go back?
You can go up there, here. I mean, to the just open another tab. Plus sign should be showing there, right? And then you can just type and make sure that at the end it is showing vSphere client URL instead of ending with UI.
Okay,
So
let me try it. Thank you.
And then URL that we have shown in last class as well. It's on the OneNote as well. Let me just show the. Yeah, it's without Flash. Try to free up resources on your physical machine. Does external browsers. Oh, close external browsers. So where's that URL? Let me. It's in the previous course. So this is the URL. I'm gonna copy that in WhatsApp, and it ends with vSphere client, but you need to put your username, your name there. My name is there in the URL. I'm just, yeah, there you go. Xiang is showing that URL here, and Saif is showing the URL there as well. So thank you guys, and I'm now also showing the URL. So just take any and change it with your machine name. It should end with vSphere client. And the other one is this UI, which you're in right now. UI also has many features. It's just that it doesn't have some of the advanced features yet in this version of 6.5. Okay, so yeah. So guys, I was virtual switches, and there was that physical adapter, and then plus sign vMNIC1, right? Plus sign vMNIC1, and I added that. So yeah, I was just asking the question: are we achieving LBFO or load balancing and failover both, or are we just achieving LB and not FO? So are we achieving LBFO of the network cards if we have just added 2 network cards? So that's a very good answer. Actually, nobody answered anything. So yeah, the answer for that would be that it is going to load balance, but it's not gonna be failover. So why? If you want to achieve load balancer LBFO both load balancing and failover, then we can add. I'm gonna click plus sign just to show you. I'm gonna remove that later. So I'm just gonna add the third network card. And third network card, if I click this down arrow button here, and it's on standby. Now we achieved LBFO both. Load balancing will be done by 2 network cards, and one is on standby to be failed over to, right? So this is the way we can achieve LBFO. One is on standby and failover. So you need more than 2 network cards to achieve LBFO among network adapters, right? I don't need a third network card here, so I'm just gonna remove that. Just was showing you that how to do this. But I need just 2 network cards here, right? So I'm gonna press OK after adding the 2 network cards. And you can see that as soon as you've added the 2 network cards, both are selected. Their orange line here that is showing that they're selected. And if I have clicked this VM network or the port group box here, so they are both selected. But if you select the upper box, which is the VM kernel ports, then you see that one is selected and one is not selected, right? So the port group, when I select both selected, this means that both network cards are being used for inbound and outbound data, sending and receiving data, right? And then there is management network. If we go, there is just one network card that is being used. So just click the vSwitch 0 at Sham. Okay, so here, management network, VM kernel port, one network card, VM network, both network cards. Why port group box shows that 2 network cards are available for them, and why the VM kernel port shows just one network card is available for its traffic? Anyone knows that too? Why port group box shows 2 network cards selected? Why management VM kernel port shows that one network card is available for them? Spread the traffic. Info, Liang says. Finally, it goes to physical NIC. Yes, this is the physical NIC that it goes to, and spread the traffic. Yeah, so for VM network or port group, 2 network cards will be used to balance the traffic and load balance the traffic. And here, management network, just one network card is used. So why it is so? The answer would be that management network does not have a lot of traffic. What kind of traffic management network VM kernel port has? What kind of traffic? Only that we can remotely connect from with the help of management network and manage this hypervisor. So this is not a very big traffic, but port group is actually dealing with a big traffic, right? It has a lot of virtual machines. Suppose virtual machine 1 is a file server and 2000 people are connecting every day to the file server, and other one is print server, and maybe 1500 people are connecting every day during the peak hours to the print server. So you got 4000 people connecting and sending and receiving data right now, and this is just 2 machines, right? Maybe there are 10 more machines, and each machine maybe 500, 1000, 1500, 2000. Maybe one physical server, one hypervisor is handling 8000 connections or 6000 connections. So for that, obviously we need more network cards working together in a NIC team. So that's why port group automatically gets both network cards, while management network just gets one network card to be used because it's just remote connection traffic. The vCenter is connecting through this network card to the hypervisor, right? Okay, so Sab says, how about if NIC 0 is not working, we lose management access? Yes, if VM NIC 0 is down, that's it. Our connection is frozen. So it's a good idea to have this one also use 2 network cards instead of 1. Yes, so you're right about that. And so what happens here is that we can also make it use 2 network cards as well, right? We can also make it use 2 network cards. So first of all, if 2 network cards are added, so click on the port group here where the 2 network cards are selected. Okay, so Ramanjo says my server 2 is still not selected. Oh, working. So 500 error. Ramanjo, did you restart? I'm sure you did. And then wait for it, right? Oh, you did. And waited 20 minutes? I'm sure more, but so well, you can go to the services.psc or msc and check if the services are on, or maybe you have to manually turn on, which I showed in the previous video, as well as I could restart third time as well and check it out. But otherwise, you can let me connect at 10 o'clock and I'll check it out. So Sylvester says, and it will switch to NIC 1 automatically in case of NIC 0 failure. Sylvester, no, in case of management network, the VM Kernel Port, it is only using one network card, so it's not going to switch. There is no load balancing going on. And the second network card, remember that we did not put it in the standby section. So no, it's not going to fail over. So the second here, it's active. It's available for load balancing. If one goes down for the port group, the another one will be available as well. Xiang says we SSH to the management and network to configure something. Yeah, exactly. So just like we connect to through SSH to manage something, definitely. So guys, here we understand that there's a port group, and then there's a Vm Kernel port, and there's a port group. So once there's a port group here, so now what we can do is we know that how to add a network card, right? Network card.
Amir?
Yeah.
I little bit lost due to my restart the vCenter. So what can I do after switching the vSwitch 0? Then
vSwitch 0.
I little bit.
Do you see the green button here?
Yeah. Yes.
And I think Orang is on the same. So those who have not added the second network card, see this now. So click this green, and you will see one. Ignore that I have two. So just click the plus sign, green plus sign here to add the second network card.
Second network means NIC card 1, am I right?
Exactly. VMNIC 1 in your case, it's just because I already added, that's why it's not showing me VMNIC 1, but you will add VMNIC 1.
Okay. Then
it's okay, and that's it. So if it looks like this exactly, then press OK.
Okay, now this is coming, yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a press OK here. So guys, this is your screenshot number 1. 2 NICs added to vSwitch 0. This is your screenshot number 1. 2 NICs added to vSwitch 0. Screenshot 1. 2 NICs added to vSwitch 0. 2 NICs added to vSwitch 0.
But Amir, for me, the 2 NIC card is coming, which we need to, but the yellow, orange color is not coming.
Click this one, the port group.
Okay. Put VM network.
Yes, VM network.
Okay.
So I'm going to take a sample screenshot now, and 2 NICs connected to vSwitch 0. So I'm just going to go for sample screenshot and put it. So screenshot 1. Screenshot 1. 2 NICs connected to vSwitch 0. 2 NICs connected to vSwitch 0. I'll quickly go for you're okay. So screenshot 1, 2 NICs connected to vSwitch 0, and I'm putting it on WhatsApp as well. Okay, so that's a sample screenshot, and okay, let's go ahead. And this is the screenshot we wanted, where the two, if you click the VM network, and then 2 NICs will be added, right? So that's our screenshot 1, or screenshot uno in Spanish, right? So okay guys, here that's the first thing, how to add a physical NIC. Second thing is how to create multiple port groups, right? So we understand the what is the purpose of a port group. This is a port group, and the only purpose of a port group is to let virtual machines connect over the network, and also to the internet, right? To each other and to the internet. So this is the purpose of a port group, right? Now this is just VM network default port group, and yes, 2 machines are connected to this port group called VM network, right? So Versus says, how do we select both the NICs for the VM kernel port group? Very good question. So guys, see this. If I selected, we already know, right? We selected the VM network port group, and we can select the 2 network cards here. If we go for management network, we can see only 1 network card is selected. What if the boss says that you want 2 network cards showing here as well? I want the management network VM kernel port to also show 2 network cards selected, right? So how do we do that? Let's do this as well. Now what do we do here? The other to let the other card be selected. So see this and follow. So click on management network first of all, and then you see there's a pencil sign that appears here. You also see a pencil sign here, but don't click this one. This is the editing button for the virtual switch. Don't click that. There's management network, and there's a pencil sign here, this one. So I'm going to click this one, right? And this lets us edit that VM kernel port. So once we click the edit button and go to the VM kernel port, so there are many options here which I will be going through one by one, but right now the purpose is to select the second network card, so it could be also used for management network. So I'm just going to go down to teaming and failover. Teaming and failover. So I'm going to click teaming and failover here, and you see that the VM NIC 1 is actually in unused. That's why it's never going to fail over to this. If the first one goes down, that's it. We lose connection from vCenter to hypervisor. So if we want the second network card to be used as a NIC team, so select the VM NIC 1, and you know what to do now. There's a blue up arrow. So select up arrow once and select up arrow again. Oh, okay. So Acham says repeat. Acham, see this management network. If you click that and then click this edit, I hope you're there. Yeah, you can Saf, yes. Either you can put it on failover or you can make it active. Up to you. So here, Acham, hopefully you're there, and click teaming and failover.
Then
Failover, and then go down to this network card.
Okay.
And just up arrow, either you standby or you want to see both selected, then this one. Just put it here and okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And once we press OK here, so now for the management network, it's active for both as well. So just for this management network VM kernel port, it was not active, but now, so you just have to go to the edit button and go inside and just select the second network card for this one as well. And it still has very less traffic, but it's good to have 2 network cards. If one goes down, the other one will still let you connect from vCenter to this hypervisor 1 through any one of the network cards. So, okay, we understand now that we have provided the management network Vm Kernel Port 2 network cards as well, and they're both in active configuration. Now what we need to do is how to create multiple port groups. Why would you want to create multiple port groups? You have VM network port group already there where you have 2 virtual machines already connected, or 2 virtual machines, or 12 virtual machines, or 20 virtual machines, right? Whatever is the number, whatever is the number of machines. So how about first of all, why do we want to create port group? So suppose there is one virtual machine belonging to sales department and second virtual machine belonging to marketing department. Suppose that's the case, right? Hopefully everyone has 2 virtual machines. And so we're going to make sure, we're going to do this. We're going to create 2 new port groups. We will name one port group as sales department port group, other port group as marketing department port group. We're going to detach this virtual machine from this default port group called VM network and attach it to sales department. We're going to detach this virtual machine from this default port group named VM network and attach it to marketing department port group. So I've explained that basically we're going to create 2 port groups and attach these virtual machines to those 2 port groups. Just to know how to create a new port group and how to detach and attach virtual machines to and from port groups, right? So Orang says port group equals VLAN. So not necessary, but port group do offer VLAN as well. So suppose you want to use the VLAN feature in a port group, yes, you can enable manually that feature in a port group. By default, VLANs are disabled, but yes, you can enable one port group, one VLAN. So yes, the answer would be VLAN is supported on the port group level, but by default they are disabled. You want to enable that, yes, you can enable that. So they do support VLAN features as well, but they are not separate VLANs. Suppose you have one port group here, right, and one port group here. If you did not enable VLAN here, so this port group can communicate with this port group, and this port group can communicate. The virtual machines connected to this port group can communicate with this, and virtual machines connected to this port group can communicate with this. If you enable VLAN 2 here and VLAN 3 here, now they cannot talk to each other. So it's up to us. It's just a manual process. Okay, so if we go back here, and okay, so here, so guys, we can try to create another port group. So how do we do that? There is that blue button up there. I'm just letting you know that how to create a port group. So you need to go to the add host networking. This button's name is add host networking. So everyone, those who are following can see this. Let us go ahead and select that, add host networking, and then once you select that add host networking here, then you see VM kernel network adapter, physical network adapter, virtual machine port group for a standard switch. So either you want to introduce a new VM kernel adapter for a new advanced feature. We are not introducing any advanced feature yet, so we're not going to click this option. Are you introducing another physical network adapter? You can introduce from here as well. Remember that we went for that green button here instead. So either from here, you can add a second network card, third network card, or from that green adapter. So we went from the green adapter. But then, if you want to create a new standard switch, vSwitch 0 is already there, right? See this? vSwitch 0 is already created. But the boss says, no. Please create vSwitch 1 for marketing department. Please create vSwitch 2 for sales department. If you want to create multiple virtual standard switches, and I'm going to tell you why later as well. So then you can create from here standard switch. Right now, why are we here? To create multiple port groups in existing switch vSwitch 0. In this switch, there is already one port group to which virtual machines are connected. We're going to create 2 more now, right? Just to know how to create more port groups, right? So let's click this virtual machine port group for a standard switch, right? That's one thing. And if we go down, then click next. So third option and next. Now, yes, we want to create the next port group in the same switch, vSwitch 0, existing switch. So it's okay. Keep it selected and click next. Wow. Boom. Way to go. Okay, so network label. So guys, whenever you're creating a port group, remember one thing. Whenever you're creating a port group, remember one thing. What is that one thing? One thing is virtual machine cannot see a virtual standard switch. No way. Virtual machines directly do not see a virtual standard switch. Virtual machine do not see directly a network card as well. You cannot connect a virtual machine directly to a virtual standard switch. You cannot connect a virtual machine directly to a physical NIC. So what do you connect the virtual machine to? You connect it to a port group. Virtual machine only sees a port group, right? It does not see a standard switch. It does not see a physical NIC. It only sees a port group. Okay, so what's the big deal with that? Suppose you have 2 switches, 3 switches, maybe 4 switches. You've created more virtual standard switches, right? So if you do not put a meaningful name to the port group, you will be confused. Suppose I just put sales department port group. So virtual machine only sees a port group. So you will not know that sales department port group belongs to virtual switch 0 or virtual switch 1 or virtual switch 2 or virtual switch 3, right? So the main thing to understand here is give meaningful name to the port group, because virtual machine only sees a port group, right? Virtual machine only sees a port group, and I'm going to show you that what do I mean by that and where can we see that. So now we are at the state where we can create a new port group. So I'm going to create it VS0. We can just keep the name simple, VS0. Why I'm putting VS0 here? Because this port group belongs to virtual switch 0, right? And hyphen, and then we can go for, suppose it was for sales department. So then, you know, how long you want to give a name, how short you want to give a name, sales DEPT, suppose. Okay, but I know that this port group belongs to VS0, virtual switch 0, because later we're going to create virtual standard switch 1, 2, 3 as well. Yeah.
Sorry to take you back. When I select a target device, I click on New Standard Switch. It says create a standard switch, and it gives me that same place I was in when we added that one. No, yes, I clicked on New Standard
No, you
Switch.
should be clicking on this. You know, don't click anything, like it is already selected on vSwitch 0. So keep it selected, right?
Okay,
And then go ahead.
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So the name has to be meaningful when it comes to port group, because virtual machine only sees a port group. It does not see a standard switch directly. I'm going to show you where there's a proof that it only sees a port group and not a standard switch and not a network card, right? So VS0 dash sales department and then click next if you have given the name. Oh yeah, you can also give VLAN ID here. So see this, VLAN is optional, and you can none, 0 or all 4095. So you can suppose give here VLAN 2 and that VLAN 2 here can be then, suppose I just remove by a backspace and then type 2 here. So then the next port group you can create VLAN 3. So this port group's machines cannot communicate over the network to the next port group whose VLAN is different number than this VLAN number. If they are both on VLAN 2, they can talk to each other on the network. If they are VLAN 2 and VLAN 3 or different numbers, they cannot talk to each other, right? So right now we know how to do it, but we're not gonna actually do that for now. And what is this 4095? So suppose you select 4095. Now suppose you have one port group that is VLAN 2 and the other port group, so suppose there is one PG here, this is not parental guide, this is a port group, so PG2 and PG3. So one port group has VLAN 2, another port group has VLAN 3. But this is a another port group that you're creating. So port one, first port group, second port group, this is third port group you're creating. So if you select 4095 here, this third port group and the virtual machines connected to the third port group can also communicate with this one, can also communicate with the virtual machines here. Now these guys with each other, they cannot communicate. But because, so 4095 just means that you can connect to all the port groups that are available that you have configured here. So this is a very good way to make a traffic flow. These two port groups, virtual machines cannot talk to each other, but they can both talk to the third port group here, and over the network they can communicate with each other. So this is just that purpose, 4095. So we need to just put 0 here, right? I'll put that screenshot here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this none or 0. Yeah, 128 times 128. So that's chances. And I'm going to click next. Right? And then it says, oh, that's it. You want to create a port group? Yes, that's all we need to do for a port group. This port group will be created in vSwitch 0 as well, because we don't have any other standard switch for now, right? So click finish or finito. So vSwitch 0, if I go down, scroll here, scroll. So I can see now that there's another box appearing here that is the next port group that I created, right? So default port group name is VM network, and the second port group that I created is VS0 sales department, and you can see that there's virtual machine is 0, while here there are 2 virtual machines in the bracket written here because 2 virtual machines are connected to the default port group. Let's just create one more port group here and VS0 dash marketing department or MKTDEPT, right? Let's just create another one just to check. Suppose we have more port groups. So I'm going to click that, add host networking again, and then I'm going to go for third option. Now you know the drill, right? So virtual machine port group for a standard switch, right? And click next. And we're going to go for vSwitch 0, existing only, right? Existing only, and click next. So here we're going to go for VS0 just to say that this port group also belongs to vSwitch 0, and so it doesn't have to be VS0, you can just put it any name here, but suggestion is always go for a meaningful name that which switch it really belongs to. So VS0 dash MKTDEPT, marketing department, right? So, or whatever name you want to give, and it's VLAN ID 0, and click next and click finito. Okay guys, so if you can confirm that too, now you can see that there are VS0 marketing department and VS0 sales department. So we created 2 more port groups and none of them has any virtual machines attached, right? So 2 port groups created, but we need to attach 1 virtual machine to marketing department and 1 virtual machine to sales department just to know how to attach detached virtual machines to and from a port group, right? So how do we do that? So I'm going to go for VM01 and attach it to sales department, and VM02 and attach it to marketing department. for no particular reason, just to show that how to attach detach. So I'm going to select VM01 now, and then right click it. So right click here and go to edit settings. Right click and go to edit settings. In the edit settings, you can see that there is a network adapter, and network adapter is connected directly to a port group because the default name of the port group is VM network. So if I drop down here the network adapter side, so you can see the rest of the port groups that we created: VS0 marketing department and VS0 sales department. And also, guys, let's click that show more networks here as well. Show more networks here. So if you click the show more networks here, so you can see that a big screen opens, but I don't see a virtual standard switch written here, or I don't see the that physical network card name here. So this is where you can see that that you can only see a port group, but you cannot see a virtual standard switch, and you cannot see a NIC, physical NIC of the physical hypervisor as well. So guys, this means that virtual machines only see a port group. So I'm just going to select that sales department here, or you could have selected there as well. When you drop down that, you can just drop down and select from here as well. Sales department. So VM01 now will be detached from the default port group VM network and will be attached to the sales department port group. Okay, and click OK. So that's all you need to do to disconnect the virtual machine from one port group and connect to the other port group, right? I'm going to go for the second machine and attach it to the marketing department port group. And now we know the drill. So right click here, go to edit settings. And whenever it opens, wow, my mouse is like it's just moving way down when I move slightly. It's haunted. Wow, it's just doing weird thing. Just waiting, showing me a clock. Oh man, serious? Now what? It's okay. I'll refresh the whole browser here. I hope my computer is not frozen. So it's Re and Fre and Shing. Yay! Status 400, bad request. Hey, I'm sure I sent a good request. Come on. It was not a bad request. Anyway, so yeah, it's a lot of pressure on that poor application. And is there anything open here? was always a good request. You hurt my feelings now. Okay. Really? Flash was blocked on this page. Why? Run Flash this time. Really? No, it's not blocked. Okay. So yeah, I think I should also put it on WhatsApp, and you know, Omo and Saf were helping others. Now I should ask screenshots and questions there as well. Oh, you know what? There's internet here, which I needed at that time, but this is actually going to really misguide my DNS or name resolution traffic, and also that I have Windows Firewall. So I'm in local server, and first I'm just going to disable internet now. Right click, disable. And second thing is I'm going to turn off the firewall as well. Sometimes it decides to block the traffic. And re-end fresh. Okay, and minimize, and then I'll close this browser and go down to this Windows icon within the machine and look for the VMware folder, and there's the official link for the VMware vSphere web client. Right? Oh, you got flash blocked. Okay, so I'll double click the Chrome here and request my URL to be opened, and what RAM have I given? 8 GB, I guess. Yeah. Oh, now it's 500, so it's at least 400. We have an improvement here. It's 500 now. I thought it will be. You shut down server 2 and then start, or just shut down? Deep Chica. And Rama Jones says same. Earlier I got the same. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm going towards restarting the server, but I'm just giving it best shots here. You know, guys, there's one more thing here. In troubleshooting, you can just go to the browser and go to more tools and then clear browser data as well. So that could also be. I've gone to browser, more tools, and clear browser data. I increased CPU. Navdeep says I increased CPUs because CPU usage of server 2 was 100%. Oh man, let me check that. Maybe mine is also the same. Yeah, you're right. CPU is 33%, 27%. Okay, in your case it was more. In my case, it's cooling off at 13%. So yeah, in the background. Oh wow, okay. Jiang says it's eating 98% of your memory. Woo, really? Okay, so then I should not be getting this error. So okay, I'm just gonna go to more tools here in browser, Chrome. I'm gonna go for clear browsing data, and then I'll say that, you know, whatever you remembered, Mr. Browser, just forget it from now on, right? So clear data, and then I cleared the data, and I'll go close it, and I'll go down here before I restart, because restart means break. So VMware or VM Nowhere. Then I'm going to go for VMware vSphere web client again and request this. Hey, your connection is not private. Yes, advanced. We know that. And proceed. Save says 4 CPUs and at least 10 GB RAM for server 2 to work. Oh, okay. So I'm going for proceed and right click task manager. My CPU is 22%, 23%. So it's not using my CPU at all. And 500. Woohoo! Okay, guys, this calls for a break, and I'll shut down my machine and start. So I'm gonna go for right click here and shut down. Right click. No, right. and so Jasminder Kaur is very happy. So okay, there's a break. So it's shut down, and I'm gonna power on. Oh man, I should have increased the CPU, although it was not using for in my case. So guys, that's gonna take some time now. So let us go for a break, and the class starts at 7:45, 7:55, 8:05, 8:15 or 8:05. Let me know. Break. Class starts. Oh, it sounds says 8:10. 8? Wow, just 15. Oh yeah, it's 55 and 8:05, right? 10. That's. Oh, that accent. I do a lot of accents actually. So yeah, okay. 8:50. No, come on. 8:05. 20 minutes, right? Alright, yeah, this alright is actually Mexican kind of accent. Mexican, I guess. Watched too many movies, right? Okay, guys, so let's come back after at 8:05 we start. One. Okay, back from the break, and I'll try to connect to my machine here and log in. And I'm just double clicking that Google Chrome, and then going for VMware and launching this. So suppose guys, sometimes it's just nasty and it doesn't accept that, so in that case I would request if somebody can show their screen. Okay, so it's again asking for an off flash player, and I'll just go to local server, and first, because I need internet connection for the off flash player to be connected, and local server. Right click, enable. So internet is here now, and not secure, go for pop-ups, and actually both are allowed. I'm going to go to settings, and it's not showing me the flash, so its flash is blocked. It was not showing up there, so it's in the settings and then allow. And then there's a reload button here. So we've gone through that and checked it out, so I'll try to put that. Okay, so finally I'm back in after I had to shut down and start, so it's working now. Thank God. Okay, so I'll just put full control here. Full control? Full screen, seriously. Okay, And so we talked about the port groups, and then we talked about also the network cards, how to add network cards, how to add port groups there. So we need to go back to the hypervisor here and then go to configure. So hypervisor 1, configure, and then virtual switches. So first of all, this virtual switch 0 here, or vSwitch 0, I'll just try to put this down. And once we go for vSwitch 0, so here we can see now we have multiple port groups here as well. And so when, let's just click the vSwitch 0, this one here, and then there's an edit button here for the vSwitch 0, right? So vSwitch 0, and then there's a pencil sign here. Let's click that pencil sign for the vSwitch 0. So once you click the pencil sign, then there is that properties of vSwitch 0 is there, or double click the vSwitch 0, it should open. So now it shows here number of ports elastic, so it can support automatically more virtual machines that are connecting. Suppose at a time 20 virtual machines are connecting, so elastically or automatically it's going to assign ports from its port groups to the virtual machine. So number of ports elastic. MTU, I think Cisco gurus here would know what is MTU. Anyone knows what is MTU for in Cisco? Anyone knows what is MTU in Cisco? So by now I would have googled it, but so there you go. Something transmission unit, exactly. Oh, Zhang says maximum transmission unit, exactly. So maximum transmission unit just means that you want to send packets with this much payload, 1500 bytes packets, or you want to have more data transferred per packet, making a packet size a bit bigger. On packets normally they travel over, they then convert to bits on the cable. So the main thing is that how much payload or data you want to take per packet. So normally we don't touch it unless you have some good reason for that, or you're an advanced network user or administrator there. So these are the main settings here, and then this is in properties of the switch, right? Then there's security here as well, right? And that security has promiscuous mode, MAC address changes, and forged transmit here. So promiscuous mode is just for if you have diagnostic, if you want the diagnostic traffic to be generated by the virtual standard switch as well, so then you enable the promiscuous mode. So diagnostic traffic means what? So there's a regular traffic going on for virtual machines, but if you want more detailed information from the packets that are coming in, especially leaving the virtual standard switch, you want to grab those traffic, those packets or that data leaving from the switch. You want to grab it from a sniffer tool called Wireshark, suppose, or any other. So in that case, it's going to be in that case then it's going to be enabled. Suppose you want more diagnostic traffic, you enable it and grab the packets and then check out that, oh, there's a bandwidth being used a lot by this particular port or this particular traffic, or why the packets are being dropped. Oh, there's a lot of peak time, there's too much traffic, and the Ethernet cable may be not providing that kind of or your network equipment is not providing that kind of bandwidth there. So object identifiers, yeah, okay. So there's MAC address changes and forged transmits as well. So MAC address changes and forged transmits both are related to that. If you have any of the features that are being used that can actually hide the MAC address of the virtual machine. Now normally it's you can use it for in load balancing. Normally what happens is that you go for MAC address change of a machine. Suppose it's load balancing going on for a machine, and the virtual machine's MAC address needs to be the same for all virtual machines. Sometimes it happens that you go for a load balancing feature where MAC address has to be same, or one MAC address to be shown to the physical switch that is outside, and looking at, hey, how many network cards are there, and you say that no, there's just one network card that you need to send traffic to. So then in that case, MAC address changes are acceptable here. Normally we are using load balancing here, and the load balancer just tells the outside physical switch that, hey, yes, that's just one MAC address you should be concerned with and send traffic to. And forged transmits also is that it's going to try to save, it's going to try to make sure that there is no MAC address that is unregistered, or maybe a hacker just introduced a new machine here, and that new machine is trying to connect to the load balancer, posing or forging as that I'm a legit machine here. So whatever MAC addresses are registered already, those are only allowed to send traffic. So forged transmits are then disallowed by enabling that feature. So normally this is something that you would not really change unless you are you have those the need for rejecting them. So Memo says, well, will the video be available immediately after the class? Oh, I can't join the class. So Mamilo, it's the video takes 1.5 hours to get become MP4, and then I upload it to YouTube, and then it takes 1 hour, 2 hours there as well. So yeah, by tonight or by tomorrow morning it should be available. Okay, so that is not this is L. This is not T, so it's not port balancing, it's load balancing here. But anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead with the rest of the features there as and well. And we're gonna create multiple switches just to check that, how to create multiple switches there. So there's traffic shaping here as well, and traffic shaping just means that you want to control the bandwidth, overall bandwidth. Maybe it's 100,000 kilobits per second is going on, and suppose you enable that. We're not going to enable that, but if you enable that, so it's not going to, this virtual standard switch will not let the traffic go more than 100,000 kilobits per second, right? So this is just to control how much data can pass through the standard switch. If you want to put a cap on that, then you can enable this. Otherwise, normally it's not a good idea to enable that if there are critical machines attached to the port groups that are part of this virtual standard switch. So capping, but if you have some other machines which are non-critical and they're still creating a lot of data during peak times, so then you can put a cap on the bandwidth there, that you cannot use more than this, and peak bandwidth should not go more than that, and burst size for the bandwidth, how much data you can send in one burst, that cannot go more than this amount. So that is what you can do for non-critical machines, but critical machines should see it disabled, because you don't want to stop critical traffic if they do breach some bandwidth limit. So then there is teaming and failover. Teaming and failover has load balancing there, and then there is load balancing has route based on originating virtual port, and then there is also route based on IP hash, route based on source MAC hash, and use explicit failover order. So what happens really when you have a hypervisor, so suppose there's a virtual machine that is having port 25. Anyone knows what is the type of traffic port 25 uses? And then there is port 1433. Anyone knows what kind of traffic is port 1433? And then port 53. Anyone knows what is port 53? So you should know all these ports if you want to really go for any exam or interview. Port 25 RSAs is for SMTP, DNS RSAs is port 53 is DNS exactly, and 1433 is now you're doing AWS, right? Amazon Web Services, and you must know ports. Come on, guys. What are you doing? In cloud, you need to know ports because you need to block traffic according to ports there in Azure and in AWS. So in the interview, this would be one of the main questions there. SQL, there you go. Minor says SQL. It's 433 is for TCP? No. TCP or UDP? Yes, anyone you can choose for the type of traffic. So TCP UDP for port 25, TCP UDP for port 53 DNS, TCP UDP for port 1433, which is database SQL access, database traffic, right? So it could be either TCP. TCP is transmission control protocol or three-way handshake. In TCP, you confirm that the traffic, that the data reached the other side, and there's an acknowledgement there. Yes, the data reached here. We're okay. And you can say from here, okay, thank you for acknowledging that my data reached you. And UDP is you just close your eyes and simply throw that data on a certain direction, and you don't care if it reaches or not. Who cares? Just throw it there. So anyway, so well, that's what I was saying was, suppose there's a virtual machine here with the messaging application or database application or DNS server here. Guys, one more, since we are talking about port. Anyone knows what is 389? So try to think about it and even Google it. So anyone knows what is 389? I'm not talking about 3389, that is RDP. 389. So what we're talking about is that these virtual machines are there. There is VSS here, virtual standard switch here, right? And that virtual standard switch is connected to NIC 1 and NIC 2 and NIC 3 here. So that NIC 2 and 3. So this standard switch is connected to that, right? So LDAP, there you go. That's found. It says 389 is LDAP. Connecting to Active Directory, directory services for any application. Okay, so what happens is that route based on IP hash. What does that mean? Route based on IP hash means that if suppose the day one when the virtual machine is created and the first time it's sending the data, then it hits the virtual standard switch, and from there VSS assigns randomly one network card on that first day. So suppose the traffic went to this NIC. So what happens from now on, this NIC will remember that this IP, specific IP, whatever IP was there, it remembers that from there the traffic was coming. The traffic will always, from this IP, the traffic will always hit the first network card, and it will keep on going from this unless it is overwhelmed, and then the traffic will be changed to the second network card. If it is having too much traffic, it's going to load balance in that time. And that's the same for route based on source MAC hash. Suppose day 1 1433 database traffic went to the standard switch, and it randomly set that traffic to NIC 3. NIC 3 will remember that MAC address, that from this MAC address all the traffic will always go through NIC 3 unless it is overwhelmed, and the traffic will be redirected to NIC 2 or NIC 1 or whichever other is available having less traffic. And route based on originating virtual port. So that is also, suppose there's a port 25 traffic, 1433 traffic, 53 DNS and 389, and it will remember that which port actually sent me a traffic. VSS will randomly assign, same logic again. This time it's port based. Whatever type of traffic is coming there, suppose it NIC 2 remembers that, okay, port 1433 traffic or port 389 traffic I will always take, although it can come from any other machine as well. So when it's this type of traffic, one type of network card will remember that, and it will always go through that network card unless it is overwhelmed and the traffic is redirected to some other network card. And then use explicit failover order. So this is just that hey, traffic will go through any of the network cards randomly as well, but if one network card goes down, then fail over the traffic to the other network cards. Second goes down, fail over the traffic to the third network card. So this is how you can do the load balancing in different scenarios as you want. So default is route based on originating virtual port, but otherwise it's just. So I'll just quickly put that diagram here, and then there is load balancing, and then there is network failure detection. So there's a link status only and beacon probing. So link status and beacon probing, the only difference there is that link status is, hey, you're connected, this VSS, virtual standard switch, is connected directly to a physical switch or P switch, suppose physical switch, and there's another physical switch here as well, P switch, right? Physical switch. So what happens is that are we connected directly to the switch? Oh, maybe we have a connection loss here and the cable has some issue or the switch went down, and link status just tells that, hey, your status of your link to the second physical switch is actually gone. So that's it. So the main thing here is that it's gonna tell, is your directly connected link up or down. That's the only thing it says. But beacon probing is that it sends packets to surrounding networks, and then it checks that where the path is. Suppose this physical switch is connected to another physical switch, and it checks. Beacon probing just sends a packet that just check the surrounding, how many links are down, how many links are up. So that's beacon probing, right? Link status, directly attached links are up or down. Beacon probing, let me just check my surroundings, which links are up and which links are down. So that is then beacon probing. And then there is also failback, and failback is that if the first adapter goes down, it will fail over to the second adapter, or the whole traffic will be redirected to the second adapter, right? Network adapter. But whenever the network adapter comes back, then the traffic will be again distributed or fallen back to the same adapter. This normally is used for this scenario where you have one standby and one active adapter, and so the first one went down, the standby becomes active, and whenever the first one came back, the second one just goes back to standby status again. You just want to stick to the first network adapter as long as it is up. So in that case, failback is shown here as well, right? So these are all the features in a virtual standard switch, and first thing is that these are the features of virtual standard switch, right? Now what about those port groups? We have like 3 port groups here, and do they do anything else other than arranging the virtual machines and having a VLAN as well? So we've checked the features of virtual standard switch. I'm going to cancel out from here now, and then there is the port group. Let's go to the sales marketing sales port group, sales department port group here, right? For no particular reason, we can go for marketing as well, or we can go for default VM network port group. Let's go to sales department port group. Once you select that sales department port group, then there's a pencil sign showing here, right? There's a pencil sign showing here. So let's click that pencil sign for the sales department. Now we're inside a port group, and first of all, you see, oh, you want to create a VLAN here or not. We know that already when we were creating a port group, right? So if you go to security here, now you can see that it's exactly the same options here as well. On port group level, you see security, traffic shaping, and teaming and failover as well. So, and promiscuous mode, MAC address changes, forced transmit is here, but you can see override. So that's very cool here. Now, suppose you have, well, we have 3 port groups, right? But one of the port groups doesn't want to follow the policies of the virtual standard switch. Virtual standard switch, there you actually, for traffic shaping, virtual standard switch has disabled that traffic shaping here. It's not putting a cap on how much bandwidth you can use. But on this port group, you have some non-critical machines that are actually creating a lot of traffic, and they are non-critical. So they are taking the traffic off, bandwidth off critical virtual machines as well, right? Which you cannot afford. So traffic shaping, you can just go for this particular port group, and that's then enable that and check that, hey, you guys cannot, the virtual machines connected here are non-critical to this sales department, suppose, and then we're putting some limit on the bandwidth they can use during the peak hours or any time. You cannot use a lot of bandwidth because we really need it for the critical virtual machines. So you can override or go against the configurations, select the opposite of the whatever you've configured on virtual center switch. You can override those settings and go against those settings of vSwitch 0 here on every port group by clicking the override button. So you can see that all the features of vSwitch 0 are here, other than MTU. All the features are here, and you can override. So you get the idea that this particular port group, you can actually change the features of security, traffic shaping, and teaming and failover on every port group level. So that's pretty cool. We talked about all this before as well. So these are exactly the same features, but the only thing is that on port group level, not only that port groups are used to connect virtual machines to each other over the network, not only that port groups are also going to organize different department teams wise virtual machines separately. They also offer VLAN, they also offer security. Each port group offers security features, overriding, traffic shaping overriding, and teaming and failover overriding, right? So that's these are a lot of features there. Now next week when we are having quiz, so any questions from these discussions can come as well. So hopefully you're understanding what is going on here. So I'm just going to click cancel out of this, and we understand that how to create port groups, how to attach machines to and from any port group, and then what is inside a virtual switch and what is inside port groups as well, right? But how to create multiple virtual switches if we want to create, and why would we want to create multiple virtual switches? So let's try to check that how to create multiple virtual switches as well. Like how to create, yes, I'm gonna show you now, but why would you want to create a second switch here when first switch is sending all the traffic here already? So how it works is, suppose this is the vSwitch 0, and there are so many virtual machines, VMs, and here that are connecting to virtual switch 0, right? Maybe there are 10 VMs that are connecting to virtual switch 0, and from there's only NIC 1 and NIC 2, right? But actually in physical server you have actually 8 network cards. Virtual switch 0 has been assigned 2 physical NICs. So how about that you go for vSS1, virtual standard switch 1, then you go for vSS2 as well, and you assign them both their own dedicated 2 NICs, NIC 3 here and NIC 4 for just the second switch, and then third switch also 2 NICs of its own, right? NIC 5 and 6. Why would you want to do that? Obviously you can see that from the diagram now that the bandwidth of 2 NICs here, so if there were 10 VMs here and only 2 NICs are taking care of all the traffic there, so that's kind of sometimes overwhelming. So how about you divide that, or remove the 10 here, so 4 virtual machines here dedicated with 2 network cards, and in the same area here you have 4 more virtual machines that you have connected to this virtual standard switch 1 that has its own 2 network cards. So these 4 virtual machines are enjoying their own set of open bandwidth there, not open but a lot of bandwidth there, because 2 separate network cards are dedicated for these 4 virtual machines. And then suppose you have 4 or 6 virtual machines here, and this virtual switch, third switch you created, because you have 2 dedicated NICs connected to this third virtual standard switch, so you can connect 6 machines. So you can see that adding more standard switches really, and if you have enough network cards, then it is the best way to go ahead. Vendor best practices that just add one more switch and dedicate some network cards and connect some heavy virtual machines, heavy traffic virtual machines there, right? So that would be one of the main benefits of creating more standard switches, because we can attach dedicated network cards to them, and so virtual machines will enjoy a lot of bandwidth and high availability from their own set of 2 network cards, right? So how to create a second and third virtual standard switch, what are the options to explore there? Let's go for that too. So vSwitch 0 is already there. If we select that, we can see that okay, there are multiple port groups. So let's go up to that, add host networking again, and add more switches there. So I'm just going to go for add host networking, click that, and I don't need to go for VM Kernel adapter because we're not adding any services now. And then so Ramaju says I logged in now. Yay, that's good. Okay. Yeah, you can continue with whatever next screenshots we're going for, and then watch the video and cover the previous screenshots as well. So we're creating the second virtual switch, and you need to go to your first name, E6i1, not your first name. So E6i1, go to configure and go to virtual switch, go to virtual switches, and then click this globe icon here. We're here now. So okay, so then we're going for the third option. So remember that third option was used to create port groups. Now we're using the third option also to create a second virtual standard switch as well. So for two things it is used, the third option, to create new port groups on the existing switch or create a totally new standard switch as well and create a port group there as well, right? So let's click that virtual port group, third one, and click next to create a new standard switch now. So when we click the next, so you can see that either you can keep on going just like before with the existing standard switch or go for a new standard switch. So I'm going to click the new standard switch. Once you click that, then click next. And we click plus here, add adapters. So why are we coming here? Obviously, a standard switch, when you add, you have to attach at least minimum one network adapter. It's okay. One more thing, you can also just not attach any physical link to a virtual standard switch as well, right? So technically, suppose I don't attach any network card here, right? That standard switch, and I click next. So it says that there are no active physical network adapters for the switch. Click OK to continue or cancel to review your changes. So this means that technically you can create a standard switch without any network adapter attached as well. So technically you can do that, right? So, and I'm going to click cancel here because I want to add two standard switches here, which I will delete later because this switch is not doing anything for now. So I'm just going to click plus sign here to add two extra network cards. So I'm going to click plus, and vmnic2 and vmnic3, I'm going to select both. So you can press the shift key and select the second one as well. And then if you've selected two network adapters, then press O and K. So now this is that vendor best practice that we're talking about. When you introduce a new standard switch, you can actually give it its own two dedicated network cards, and click next. So now one more thing here, you see that the standard switch is asking, hey, what about the name of the port group? So that is another thing we need to understand. Whenever you create a new standard switch, one port group must be created. Otherwise, what was the purpose of creating the standard switch in the first place? The main purpose is to let the virtual machines connect to each other over the network, right? And so port groups does that. So now when we come to port groups, we know that we need to put a meaningful name of the port group. So VS1. So that's virtual standard switch 1, right? Dash and whatever. So suppose it's IT-DEPT, right? Whatever. So it's for IT department. So, but this port group tells us that this port group is attached to virtual standard switch 1, right? So I'm going to click next now. That's it. So new standard switch with two physical network cards as a vendor best practice, and one port group that must be created anyway with a new standard switch, and click finish or finito. So now the second standard switch will appear here, vSwitch 1, and if you select on top of the vSwitch 1, so it looks like this. Oh, isn't there a slight difference? When you saw the first time vSwitch 0 without any configuration, it had two boxes. vSwitch 0 had two boxes. vSwitch 1 has only one box here. There you go. Safe says there is no kernel. VM kernel, there's no VM kernel port created here. And why is that? Because vSwitch 0 has a VM kernel port whose purpose is to let us remotely connect to this hypervisor. So at least one VM kernel port must be here for a hypervisor, and obviously it was created in vSwitch 0. So vSwitch 0 is already doing that task of letting us remotely connect to the hypervisor. So vSwitch 1 doesn't have to have that VM kernel port. We're already remotely connected. Although technically, if you say, you can manually create a VM kernel port again here as well if you want, and attach that management network here as well. You can create another management network here as well if you want, which will mean that suppose the vSwitch 0 level, vSwitch level, there is some corruption here. So vSwitch 1 also, through that also, you can remotely connect to this hypervisor. So technically, yes, we can do that too. But by default, only vSwitch 0 has a VM kernel port that lets us remotely connect and manage this hypervisor. vSwitch 1 does not have, it doesn't need to have a VM kernel port. So unless we manually add that. But port group, you can see two network cards, both are selected. This means load balancing is already offered. They know virtual machines will create a lot of traffic here, right? So we understand that, okay, we can create a second switch as well. Okay, third switch, obviously the exact same routine, fourth switch, fifth switch, sixth switch. But why would we want to create multiple switches? Just to provide some extra bandwidth there for some more critical machines, and don't let the vSwitch 0 attached network cards be overwhelmed by the bandwidth of all the virtual machines. So this is the reason that we can create multiple switches as well, right? So we understand that okay, what's inside a virtual standard switch and all the features of virtual standard switch. Then why do we create multiple port groups? And VM kernel port is just available on first one to let us remotely connect. Port groups are there to not only organize virtual machines in separate boxes according to separate department and teams, but also it offers VLAN. It also offers a lot of load balancing, security, and failover features, redundancy features as well. So it's pretty complicated when it comes down to virtual standard switch with the help of port groups and VM kernel ports, right? And this is overall for standard switch. And the next topic is also related, exactly fully related to this virtual standard switch topic, and that is vMotion, which is migration of virtual machines from one hypervisor to another hypervisor. Either you turn it off and migrate, or you power it on, and end users are connected to that virtual machine, and you decide to migrate this machine away from one hypervisor over the LAN to the other hypervisor, right? So in our case, yeah, we depicted that it's two data centers across the WAN, but obviously physically they are in one LAN right now. In our case, there's no WAN between them right now. Okay, so once we understand this standard switch, then the next topic is totally dependent on obviously the standard switch. That's why first we have to understand standard switch, and then we go ahead with the vMotion as well. So, but vMotion, what is vMotion? It is the migration of virtual machines, right? So it is the migration of virtual machines from one hypervisor to another hypervisor. Hypervisor what? E6i1 is a hypervisor, E6i2 is a hypervisor, right? So to another hypervisor, and VM storage can also be migrated from one data store to another data store, right? And also VM storage can also be migrated from one data store to another data store. What is VM storage? VM storage are just files of VM, like .vmdk. This is a virtual hard disk file. .vmx, which is configuration file, right? and .vmem memory file, and then vmsd, the snapshot file. So all the files of the virtual machines with the help of which the virtual machine is powered on and running, they are all they can be migrated as well from one data store to another. That is also obviously migration. So Seth says, so management actions like vMotion happens through normal network, not through VM kernel VNet. So for management actions like vMotion, so vMotion is that advanced service for which we have to separately configure VM kernel adapter, VM kernel port, or VM kernel adapter. So vMotion is one of those features which really require VM kernel adapter. But when you say, yeah, so it is through VM kernel. VNet? You're mixing Azure with VMware. VNet is in, yeah, virtual network. It is a virtual network here as well, you're right. But it's not termed that way. So it is a virtual network, you're right. So here, we need all hypervisors or ESXi hosts slash hypervisors. It's the same thing, right? I'm just giving it different names. It's the same thing. ESXi, we need all ESXi host hypervisors to be configured with VM kernel adapters, so vMotion could work. If you don't configure VM kernel adapter for the vMotion feature, then they cannot migrate from one hypervisor to another. So obviously they will migrate over the network, and for that VM kernel adapters have to be configured, otherwise they cannot migrate over the network from one machine, from one hypervisor ESXi host to another ESXi host. So Sylvester says, when we migrate VM from one host to another, are any VM files migrated? So now that's a good question, and this is the discussion that we needed to go for. And suppose there's a diagram here, this one, and so the virtual machine is created here on top of this hypervisor. So virtual machine is loaded on the RAM. So the virtual machine is on top of RAM of this server, right? It's running on the RAM, right? So virtual machine is loaded on the RAM, while its virtual disk, its storage, virtual machine's storage is all on a data store. When you create a virtual machine on top of a LAN-based data store, so virtual machine's virtual disk was created here, and all the files related to virtual machines were also created on the data store. So normally the virtual machine's memory content is what travels over the network. So let me just write that and then explain what is a memory content. So when we are migrating a VM from one host to another, then what is host? The ESXi host, right? The hypervisor. So when you migrate from one host to another, then the VM memory content travels from one host to another, which is very small sized data. Virtual VM storage, especially VM virtual disk, does not move at all. So the VM virtual disk remains on the LAN based data store, right? And stays connected after the migration to its virtual disk, right? So that's because they are using the same one, exactly, because they are using, so this virtual machine is connected to this data store. Its virtual disk is here. When you migrate, so this same LAN 0 is connected to this ESXi, and this same LON 0 is connected to this ESXi 2 as well. And maybe you have 200 hypervisors, maybe it's a big company. So this LON 0 will be connected to 200 ESXi hosts as well, 200. This means this virtual machine can actually migrate to any of the hypervisors among the 200 hypervisors, right? Because it will never lose its connection. It's very slight, it's just 1 second. There's a cutoff here when it moves, and the connection through this hypervisor to its virtual disk is cut off, and at once it is reconnected when it moves here. So that's a very like millisecond kind of interval there, that when it reaches here, the virtual machine, it's just connected here as well to this virtual disk, because the LON 0 is also connected to both hypervisors, right? So virtual machines memory content, whatever was loaded on the memory, travels over the network, while the virtual disk, now that virtual disk could be 80 GB, right? That could be 200 GB even, right? That could be 1 terabyte as well. Maybe there's a huge data inside. If this disk had to travel, then it will take all night. If it was 1 terabyte, not all night, but very few hours. So if the disk had to move, then you cannot do migration of the virtual machine during peak hours when the end users are actually connected and using this machine, right? So that's why disk doesn't move, and that's why you must have a SAN there to make sure that the disk doesn't move. The heavier component of the virtual machine does not move. Only the lightest component of the virtual machine, which is the memory content. Memory content is what? When suppose there are 200 end users or 50 end users connected there, and opening and closing files and saving files here. So that whole data information is saved on RAM in real time. It's happening. So when you decide to migrate, this whole data moves from one hypervisor to another. This is very small amount of data, size data, that moves from the RAM of one virtual machine to the RAM, one hypervisor to the RAM of the other hypervisor, and it just starts working here if the machine was powered on and you decided to migrate. So it's just the memory content that moves from one hypervisor to another, and the disk remains the same here, the storage files remain the same here on the data store, and it just gets connected, stays connected to its virtual disk even when it reaches the other hypervisor. So if the end users were connected, so what's the actual scenario then? When do you decide to move the virtual machine while the end users are connected to it? Why would you want to decide that? Obviously, suppose the end users were saying that, hey, machine number this is unacceptably slow. When you investigate, you see that, oh, this hypervisor already has many other virtual machines, and they are really eating up all the CPU and RAM here. So this is a critical one, and end users are complaining that it's terribly slow. So you decide that end users are busy doing this thing. Why don't I just move it? You analyze also that ESXi 2 has a lot of CPU and RAM available. So you simply migrate the virtual machine while end users are connected, and migrate the virtual machine from one hypervisor to another. Now when the users are connected, obviously this means that you don't want any disruption, and it has to happen really fast. So when you are migrating, the end users might see a few seconds of frozen screen in front of them, click, 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 and all of a sudden it will start working, and it will in fact start working real fast, because now you have migrated the machine here, and there's a lot of CPU and memory suppose here. So obviously the users will say, oh yeah, now it's okay, now we're able to open and close files really fast. So that's the biggest benefit here, that even during the during the peak times, you don't have to shut down the machine and move it there. The machine is powered on, and you move it over the LAN to the other hypervisor. In what scenarios can you technically do this? Do what? The vMotion. So vMotion can only be done when, or as long as, the ESXi hosts or hypervisors are powered on. So some students get confused with that hey, when I ask that, okay, if this host goes down, what will happen? So students say, oh yeah, the vMotion, it will just vMotion the machine from here to there. So that's wrong. vMotion can only happen if the machine is up, physical server is up. If the physical server crashes, virtual machine will be shut down effectively and will be restarted on the remaining other hypervisors with the help of a feature called HA, or high availability, right? So vMotion can only be done as long as the ESXi hosts are powered on. The other feature, so that is called actually HA, or high availability. That feature, is used. It is used when a host crashes, goes down, shuts down the virtual machine. So it is used when the host crashes and it restarts the VMs on other hosts, right? So never think that vMotion will happen when the host has crashed. vMotion is, then what is vMotion used for? It is used for when degradation of performance occurs. Then only you use vMotion, right? So remember that for the quiz as well. Degradation of performance is the only scenario where vMotion is used, and if the host goes down, vMotion is not used. So it could be a question there, a trick question, a trap question, that vMotion, the host went down actually, and with vMotion we were able to migrate the machine from one host to another. True or false? So obviously it's false. If the host crashed, vMotion cannot help you in that scenario, right? Okay, so what does help then when the host goes down? Then there's another feature called FT. So either HA or FT. HA is that the machine is shut down, there's a downtime, it will restart that machine on the other host. FT is, it's gonna have a partner machine, a passive machine, a secondary machine on the other host as well. So if the host goes down, with fault tolerance, the virtual machine, active virtual machine, will fail over in seconds to passive virtual machine. So your passive will become active on the other host. So FT is where there is zero downtime. HA, there is a downtime, right? While FT, zero downtime because failover to secondary machine happens there. So I'm just comparing all the features that vMotion is only for degradation of performance. Remember that always for the interview. And HA is for, there is a downtime and it will restart the machine. So the users will be effectively disconnected. Fault tolerance is the feature where there is zero downtime, zero data loss, and it fails over to secondary machine. That's where it's flawless and host goes down and your machine is still up, your services are still up. That is fault tolerance, right? Yes, HA is, let me just put the abbreviation there, high availability, and this is fault tolerance. Right. So high availability is there. So do understand there is a DRS also, but that discussion will go much longer. But we're comparing that vMotion is only for degradation performance, high availability for if the host goes down, it restarts the machine in another host, and fault tolerance is only when you have then it's flawless and it fails over if the host goes down. Okay, so we can understand that where does vMotion stands and what it can do. When do you really use it, right? So that's what the vMotion is all about. Now, if we understand the scenario and some of the situations in which you can use vMotion, normally you would configure it, and you might, in a big environment, medium to large size organizations, you might have to use that maybe daily or maybe after. So during peak hours, obviously everyone is working, all virtual machines are busy, so you might get those complaints that, hey, machine is really slow, what's happening, and you have to vMotion. So it's a situation that you might get from time to time as a VMware admin, right? VMware and cloud admin. So VMware is really nowadays related to cloud. Yeah. So what we are trying to do, so I'm just going to go ahead with and I'm going to open that slide for Vm and where. And well, the thing is that we have to make sure that we are covering a lot of topics, even though we're slow. So guys, there are four major types or main types, although you can see 5 here, but there are 4 types of 5 types. Okay, you can say 5 types because 5 written here. Migration. So first migration is cold migration, right? So in cold migration, what happens is that virtual machine is off. Virtual machine is off, and we're going to do that migration as well, right? Host store, data store, it can just move. You can move virtual machines files from one data store to another data store, and you can move virtual machines, migrate virtual machine from one host to another, right? And across vCenter you can migrate as well. Do you need shared storage if it is turned off? No, you do not need shared storage. You don't need SAN. You do not need SAN if it is powered off, right? So, and one more thing about virtual machines, the CPU or the processor of the two hypervisors, in the case of the machine powered off, you don't need similar processors in both hypervisors, the source hypervisor and the destination hypervisor. But the suspended scenario here, machines are suspended, and then yes, you can migrate from one host to another, one data store to another. It also can happen across the vCenter. Also, you don't need a SAN for that too if the machine is suspended. But the two hosts, the first host where it is and where it wants to go, the second host, they must have same CPU there. So suppose one host has AMD processor and the other host has Intel processor, then it's never gonna work. The migration will not work if it is suspended, if it is powered on, right? So AMD and Intel, if you have these two different types of processor, it's not gonna work. vMotion doesn't work with powered on and suspended. So obviously and even when you have Intel in one host and Intel in another, in that case they have to belong from the same generation, same processor generation. Suppose this physical server was purchased in 2012, right? And this physical server is purchased in 2019. So the processor generation might definitely be different. There will be lots of advanced features in the Intel processor released in 2019. So if they don't belong to the same generation could be that the Intel processor was, you have a host that has 2018 released processor, you have a host physical server HP Dell which is 2019, and you purchase in 2020 as well. So they, in most cases, they would have slight changes if they've released in every year, right? Sometimes they release after 2 years, sometimes they release in 6 months as well. They may have slightly different changes, so they may belong to the same generation, right? But much older processors might have their own same nearby years release, so they would belong to. So if this Intel processor is from a separate generation of processor, and this Intel is from separate generation of processor, vMotion will not work in that case as well. So older and newer, same vendor processor, also vMotion will not work, right? Yes, it is kind of strict. So now comes the vSphere vMotion, which is the most famous one. And because of this, VMware became the king of data center virtualization, that it was offering a machine that is powered on and you can still migrate it from one hypervisor to another hypervisor, or physical host to another physical host. So vMotion, and that is, the machine is actually powered on. You can change the hosts from one hypervisor to another, and you can go across 2 vCenters as well. And yes, you need a SAN for that, storage area network, or shared storage, you need that. And the processor generation has to be the same. Obviously the vendors have to be the same, and processor generation has to be the same as well. So that is the main feature. And then vSphere storage vMotion. What is that? This is the storage. Whenever you see storage, this means the files of the virtual machine. So files of the virtual machine are the virtual machine virtual disk, which is .vmdk extension, virtual machine vmem memory. We just talked about that, right? So all the files, if you want to move from one data store to another data store, right? We have 3 data stores here, right? So one data store to another. So for that, if virtual machine is powered on, you can still move the storage while the machine is powered on. You can move the storage of the virtual machine from one data store to another. In that case, storage doesn't require the processor to be the same, and storage doesn't require that SAN should be there, right? So as it says, is it the same with hard swapping? Hard swapping is kind of, it's a migration, it's a full migration. Swapping would be that you're just, it's like hard pluggable, you can say, or you can just quickly change something. That's too quick for a migration. So swapping word is not used basically for, or terminology is not used for migration. That's a lot of moving factors there. Okay, so but it's, yes, conceptually, yes, you can say it is swapping. You're just moving away. Swap also means it's an exchange, so it's not an exchange of stuff that you get something and you give something. So, but swap also just means change as well. Anyway, that terminology is not used for migration, but it's kind of that, yes, that you're moving away and changing the underlying host. Okay, so cross-host vSphere vMotion, cross-host vSphere vMotion, right? So that is vMotion of virtual machine. At the same time, you're moving the storage of virtual machine as well. That is called, you're doing 2-in-1 now. Not only that, you're changing the host of the virtual machine, the 2 hypervisors from here to here, virtual machines will move, yes, but also the storage, the data store DS1 to DS2, the virtual machine's data is moving. So virtual machine is moving from one host to another, and virtual machine's files are moving from data store 1 to data store 2. So that is 2-in-1. You want to do both at the same time, then that is called cross-host vSphere vMotion. Otherwise, vSphere vMotion is just moving a virtual machine from one host to another, and vSphere storage vMotion is just moving the storage of a virtual machine from one data store to another, right? Dipshika says, if the VM is heavy, shouldn't we power off the machine for storage VM? So that's a good question. Virtual machine is heavy. What does that mean? Virtual machine heavy would mean that the storage of virtual machine is too much. Yes, if you want to do 2-in-1 and the virtual disk of a virtual machine is like 200 GB or 1 terabyte, definitely you're right. You need to do it in the evenings or on the weekends, better on the weekends, right? But if you're just doing vSphere vMotion, that can be done during peak time, even when everyone is working. vSphere storage vMotion, always do it on weekends or at nights. And obviously, if 2-in-1 you're doing, this has to be done weekends and at night as well. Because wherever the storage is involved, it's a big virtual disk that you're about to copy. So during peak time, no way you should be doing that. We should be doing that unless there's no other way, choice. So Seb says, so the last 2 applies when we are using the local storage of the ESXi. Last 2, okay. So in the diagram, let me go for that diagram. So last 2 does not, in the whole scenario of this, we're not using local disk at all, right? So virtual machine, suppose if we go for the second last one says, oh, the virtual disk needs to move from one data store, LAN-based data store, to the other LAN-based data store. That is second last one. And last one is, not only that you're moving the virtual machine from one host to another, you're moving its storage from one data store to another at the same time. So 2 things are happening at the same time. So second last is just the storage, and virtual machine doesn't move, while last one is virtual machine also changes hosts, and data store, its storage also changes data stores. So that would be, yes, exactly, vMotion plus storage vMotion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Jiang, you can ask a question there if it's confusing. So virtual machine can move from one hypervisor to another. That's fast. But if you want to move its storage, its virtual disk, then you should not do it during peak times. You should do it in the evening or on the weekends. Why? Virtual machine has very light data with it, very light data, memory contents, right? So light data is traveling if you're moving virtual machine, right? When you're moving the virtual disk, that is heavy data. So that's a huge data. Maybe it's a 200 GB disk, maybe it's a 500 GB virtual disk, right? So that's a heavy data. So that's why there's a difference. Virtual machine only moves, then you can move it any time of the day. And when you decide to move virtual disk as well, then you can't really do it any time of the day. You have to do it in the night when employees are gone, nobody's using your environment, and on the weekend when nobody's using your environment. Then you move whenever the storage is involved. Don't do it during the daytime. Do it in the nights or on the weekends. Whenever just moving virtual machine, that's light data. Do it during daytime, and it's gonna be very fast moving, right? So, well, that's the differences that we're talking about. Moving a heavy stuff, don't do it during daytime. Moving light stuff, do it during daytime if you're just moving the virtual machine itself, right? So hopefully, otherwise you can ask more questions, specific questions. So these are the types of data. Okay, then there is Sylvester asking, can we do cross-host vMotion if the VM is powered on? Can we? So cross-host means two hypervisors, right? And that's what it looks like. So that's what we were, I think, with light VMs. No, cross-host vMotion if the VM is powered on. Yeah, that's this situation. vSphere vMotion is when the virtual machine is powered on and you are changing one host to another host. You're in one hypervisor, E6i1, and you're going to the other hypervisor. So that's the main feature, host and DS. Oh, so data store as well. Yeah, cold means power off. Yes, the machine is off. Virtual machine is off. That's cold. And vMotion, if it is on, virtual machine is on. And vSphere vMotion is there. Okay, and someone says host and data store. Yeah, so if the virtual disk has very less, suppose it's 1 GB, and not a lot of users are using that, then we can take that risk as well. Otherwise, if normally the disks are always 10 GB, 20 GB, 30, 80 GB, right? So that's why if it's non-critical machine, very less users are using, you can still take the risk if it's critical. Otherwise, normally we don't touch it, right? Cross-host as enhanced vMotion. Same as, yes, exactly. Cross-host as same as enhanced vMotion. So cross-host would be, you're talking about this. So yeah, the storage, the virtual disk plus the virtual machine both move. If the virtual disk is light in size, how light could it be? Maybe Ubuntu is installed inside, maybe some light Linux flavor is installed, operating system is installed. Yeah, maybe you can just take that chance if it's not very critical. Even if it's critical and less users are using that and the disk is light, yeah, you can take a chance. It depends on your network bandwidth, whatever is available, right? So these are the scenarios of the vMotion that we're talking about, and we also talked about that it must meet, if you want a powered on machine to be migrated, it must meet CPU compatibility requirements. Otherwise, we cannot migrate that. It has to belong to same generation of processors, either AMD generation, AMD, same generation. It cannot belong to AMD generation 1 and second one AMD generation 3. So then migration will not happen. Same for Intel as well. Generation have to be the same for two, source and target hypervisor. So we talked about that and we gave in detail. So this is what is discussed in this slide, that they really made all the points there. So then there are requirements. CPU compatibility. Again, we're talking about what are the main requirements. CPU compatibility. Yes, in our case, CPU is compatible, obviously, because we have just one CPU and two hypervisors on top of that. So in our case, it is good. We are good. Second thing, vMotion interface minimum 1 GB adapter. So guys, your laptops all support at least 1 gigabit per second network adapter. This is pretty much in every new laptop now. Even slightly older also having 1 GB minimum. So 1 Gbps, 1 gigabit per second is speed is good. We all have it. Shared central mass storage. Do we have vSAN? Not vSAN. Do we have SAN? So yes, we have software SAN already. So that is also check. So all these three we have already. CPU, we have both hypervisors have the same CPU obviously, and 1 GB network card everyone has, and and the SAN, software SAN, we all have. Virtual port groups. The port groups, do they have the same name? Yes. So see this. If we go to virtual switches, vSwitch 0 has a port group called VM network in hypervisor 1. Hypervisor 1, vSwitch 0, port group, VM network. If I go to hypervisor 2, does it also have a vSwitch 0? And does it also have a VM network port group? So if I click the hypervisor 0, it's going to show me the same view there as well. I'm on E6i2 now. If I go to vSwitch 0 here as well, yes, it also has a port group called VM network. So all hypervisors by default have one port group that is always called by default VM network. You want to change the name? Yes, you can. You can create a new one? Yes, you can. But yes, we actually fulfill that requirement of having a port group with same name as well. Sufficient resources on the target host. Yeah, we have enough RAM. Yeah, right. Okay. No, we have enough RAM for this lab at least. So, and at least one vSphere Essentials Plus license, right? We have Enterprise Plus as trial version. So we meet all these requirements, but these are not all requirements. There is one more. Okay, what is that one more? So again, lab steps, vMotion of a virtual machine. Our CPU requirements. Okay. We went through that already, right? We have same CPU. Let's confirm our network settings. That's what we don't have. What? We need to have a Vm Kernel Port for another advanced feature that we are about to introduce. That advanced feature is called vMotion, the migration of virtual machine. For this advanced feature, we need to add Vm Kernel adapter on each hypervisor that is taking part in the migration. Obviously, our both hypervisors are taking part in the migration process. Suppose you had 200 hypervisors, and if you want them all to be taking part in the vMotion, you have to enable or create a VM kernel adapter in every one of the 200 hypervisors if you want to use them for vMotion or migration, right? So let's create that. Whenever you create a VM kernel adapter, you need to set aside an IP for it. That's what it needs, a separate dedicated IP for a VM kernel adapter. So when we create that, you will see that already. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for vendor best practices. We're going to go for a separate dedicated switch only for VM kernel adapter vMotion. So that advanced feature called vMotion, we're going to configure it on a separate vSwitch 1. Technically, we can create it on vSwitch 0 as well, but how about vendor best practice, right? So if I go back here, now we need to configure VM kernel adapter in this hypervisor and in this hypervisor. And when you're configuring that, VM kernel needs its own dedicated IP here, and VM kernel adapter needs its own dedicated separate IP here, right? So, and third thing, we have 9 network cards on both, so we're gonna create a extra new switch, new standard switch here, new vSS here, and we will connect that new vSS to NIC 1, NIC 2. Why? Well, we want vMotion to have its own 2 dedicated network adapters. Same thing we're going to do here. New vSS with its own 2 network adapters, which are offering what? The dedicated bandwidth for vMotion. So for this migration, we're going to configure the networking now, and let's do it first on E6i1, then we're going to do it on E6i2, right? So if we go back, yes, this is the requirement we need to fulfill right now. So let's go to our first hypervisor. In the first hypervisor, actually, let's go to the first hypervisor. Now guys, you know what, let's remove that confusion here. vSwitch 1 we just created just to show how to create vSwitch 1. I'm just gonna select that, and I'm gonna delete that because I need to recreate it with the Vm Kernel adapter settings, right? So I'm gonna click that vSwitch 1 and cross, and yes, only vSwitch 1, don't touch vSwitch 0, just vSwitch 1, select and yes. So now E6i1 has vSwitch 0 only, and if I go to E6i2, it also has vSwitch 0 only. Now we're good, right? So now we're about to create vSwitch 1 here with proper migration settings or vMotion settings, and in E6i2 with proper vMotion settings. So if we are on E6i1, then we can go down to, you can see under networking we were still talking about only, until now we were talking about virtual switches. Now you see here Vm Kernel adapters. As I mentioned before, every hypervisor already has a default Vm Kernel adapter added, which has added an advanced feature called management network. Because of this feature, we are remotely connected to this hypervisor. Otherwise, we can't connect remotely to this hypervisor. So this is good, but we need to introduce another advanced feature called vMotion now. For that, we need to attach Vm Kernel adapter here as well. Okay, so Dipshika says, I'm a little confused. Yeah, isn't management network fulfills requirements for advanced features? Like, no, management network has only one task fulfilled. What is that task? Remote connection and management of a hypervisor. Management network has nothing to do with vMotion. The only confusion you may have is that Vm Kernel Adapter 0 is introducing an advanced feature called management network. Now we're going to introduce VM adapter VMK1. VMK1. Now that VM Kernel Adapter will introduce another advanced feature called vMotion. First VM Kernel Adapter. So what does VM Kernel Adapter do? It introduces advanced features. First one is introducing the advanced feature called management network. Second VM Kernel Adapter will introduce an advanced feature called vMotion. Third VM Kernel Adapter will introduce an advanced feature called fault tolerance. Fourth VM Kernel Adapter will introduce an advanced feature called vSAN. Right? So VM Kernel Adapter 0 just introduced one of the advanced features, not all. The second one will introduce vMotion, the next advanced feature, right? Okay, so why do I have to create the other? Okay, and Zeb says, but we can combine multiple features in the same VM kernel. Yes, VMK0 technically can have vMotion as well, can have fault tolerance as well, can have vSAN as well, all the advanced features. But then those two poor network cards will be overwhelmed, and those two poor network cards might crash before we even know it, because we are putting all the advanced features in first VM kernel adapter. So that's why we are creating a second VM kernel adapter on a separate switch, having its two dedicated network cards only for vMotion. Third VM kernel adapter will be created on the third virtual switch with its own two network cards and advanced feature called fault tolerance. So you're going to see that one by one.
Amir, I have a question. So, like for VMK0, if we add more NICs and add all the advanced features in that, so is it not a best practice
It's
to
not a
do?
best practice. So the management,
Okay.
the bandwidth will be overwhelmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Got it.
technically, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we are reaching the 9:23, so we need to finish the lab. And yeah, why get disconnected from E6i1? So Orange has E6i1. Orange E6i1 is having issue. So either I can remotely connect Orang and check your machine, or at 10 o'clock. But we're just trying to finish. It didn't work since then, or it happened again. Okay, Saf is. Thank you, Saf. If it doesn't resolve, then yeah, I can also remotely connect and check it out here. So guys, here VM Kernel Adapter. Now let's add VM Kernel Adapter here on E6i1 to install vMotion, and let's add VM Kernel Adapter on E6i2 to configure vMotion here as well. So the virtual machine can migrate from E6i1 to E6i2, right? So E6i1, we are there. We are already on VM Kernel Adapter. So let's click that. Add host networking here. Let's click add host networking here. Now we understand the purpose of the other two options, but we haven't used till now VM Kernel Network Adapter itself, right? So now we are introducing an advanced feature called vSphere vMotion. Already the previous VM Kernel Adapter has already introduced this feature called host management. This is already introduced. So the second VM Kernel Adapter will introduce another advanced feature called vSphere vMotion, right? So that's what we're about to do, to introduce another advanced feature. So VM Kernel Network Adapter is add selected and click next. Now here we can technically put that on existing switch, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go for vendor best practice, which is to create a new switch and give it 2 new dedicated network adapters. So we're going to go for best practice by clicking new standard switch. And so new standard switch and click next. Okay, is that message coming from Ayodaji? Ayodaji, are you there? Yeah, so you can just try to start again and wait for it. Better wait for the video, and then when it comes, then just try to follow it at your own pace before the next class, right? So, okay guys, here we're just going to add 2 new network adapters. Now we know how to do that. So I'm just going to click plus sign here and select the next 2 network adapters and press OK, right? And then once the 2 network adapters are here, so click next. So Orang, it will be root and the password will be, yes, you can do that, but you have to remove the first E6i1, and then you can go for that. Without removing that, it's not going to add that same host again. Again, I can do that remotely after 10. So here, network label, I'm just going to put vMotion, right? So network label is vMotion. So it's just saying that, hey, what's the label for this VM Kernel Adapter? It's for vMotion. So then second thing is VLAN, you want to use that, you can use that too. IP setting v4, we're not using v6. And TCP IP stack, this just says that this whole VM kernel port, it actually supports a lot of other things like vSphere replication, fault tolerance as well, vSAN as well. But vMotion is such a critical feature that it says, hey, you might want to select this TCP IP stack option, which will go ahead and select that and see what happens. It will not let us configure anything else not fault tolerance, not vSAN, not replication, not anything else, because it will be now rightfully dedicated only for vMotion. Technically now, after this, we cannot use it for anything else other than this Vm Kernel adapter. We cannot use it other than vMotion. So this is also a good thing because it's a sensitive and critical configuration, vMotion. That's why they say that, okay, don't let on this particular Vm Kernel adapter anyone configure anything else other than vMotion, right? So vMotion is there, and then TCP/IP stack is there, and I'm going to click next. So then it asks that, okay, since we know that a separate IP has to be dedicated for each vMotion configuration, so I'm going to put 200.10, right? So 192.168.200. I'm sure 10 has not been used before in our particular environment. So 10 here and 11 on the next host, right? Suppose you have 200 hosts, so it will be, you have to have 200 separate IPs available for this particular VM kernel configuration. So press tab 255.255.255.0, right? So a separate IP has to be planned here, right? Okay, Xiang, which page are you? I'm going back, and backer, and backest. I'm backest now. So VM kernel network adapter here, right? Are you? Hopefully you're there, Xiang.
Can you next? Just next?
Shall I click next?
Yeah. Sorry. I just lost the option. You did.
Okay, so I'm on
which option?
E681 here, and then I'm on configure E681, and then VM kernel adapter. Are you there?
Yeah.
Click plus.
And
This one.
yeah. Okay.
And then the first one. Next.
Yeah.
Then the second one. New standard switch.
Okay.
And next.
Okay, no idea.
So then 2 network cards.
Yes. Okay.
And press shift, network cards. Okay. Next. And then here type.
Yeah. There. Yeah. Should I use default or use another one? The TCP/IP stack.
Yeah, this one. TCP/IP stack and vMotion. You have to use vMotion.
Choose vMotion. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. And next.
Thank you.
And then we go for use static IPv4, 192.168, 200.10 we never used before, and 255.255.255.0, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And click next. So that's it. It's just asking all this information, and we're going to do the same thing on second hypervisor as well. So let's click finito here. So I'm going to click finito here. So other than that, well, now I'm going to go to hypervisor 2, E692, host 2, same thing. So I'm going to do the same thing here as well, but with 10.11 IP, right? So I'm just going to go up to this, add host networking. Now we know the drill. VM kernel network adapter is already selected. Click next. We know we're following vendor best practice, so new standard switch. Although technically we can create here as well, vSwitch 0.
Just a second. Are we adding it, this networking? Are we adding to the virtual machine, or are we adding to the vKernel? Virtual switch. The vKernel, right?
So we're adding this VM kernel adapter to the hypervisor. Is that the question, or is because your sound was?
Yeah, this is what I.
Oh, okay.
But I have two things. I have one management network, and I have one like a VK 0 and one management network and one vMotion.
Yeah, so that's good. So for the first one, exactly that's what we wanted. First one is already there that we did not create ourselves. It gets created by default. Second one we just created now like this. So your hypervisor 1 configuration should look like this.
So if you go to virtual switches Under networking, you have 3 or 2?
So we deleted the virtual switch 1 when we created before, so we just have 2 here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So here, I'm just going to go for hypervisor 2 and exactly do the same thing here as well. And that is that I'm going to go down to Vm Kernel Adapters in hypervisor 2. Then I'm going to go for add host networking. Add host networking. And then click add host networking, and then VM kernel network adapter will be selected here. Next. Yes, we're going to be adding the adapters to. I haven't reached there yet, but we will be doing that exact same thing. So new standard switch. Next. 2 network adapters here as well. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same network adapters. In E6i1 we had VMNIC 2 and 3, right? Here we are having VMNIC 1 and 2. So it's okay, technically it works fine. In production environment, for consistency of configuration, similarity of configuration, normally yes, we should go here 2 and 3 as well, but technically it doesn't make a difference. It works. So I'm going to press OK after adding the 2 network adapters in E6i2 and click next. So I'm going to name the same this one as well, which is vMotion, and also exactly the same thing here in TCP/IP stack that I did in hypervisor 1, which is vMotion. So we're dedicating this VM kernel adapter to only use vMotion, and no other advanced feature should be introduced here, right? And click next. Obviously we need to have a dedicated, either you can get an IP from DHCP, or better go for your own static IP addresses. There are no free. Deepshika says there are no. Oh, Deepshika, I think you did not add 8 more network adapters in E6i2. I think you only added in E6i1. So that's why they're not showing here as well. I just added 3 now, then you have to restart the hypervisor 2 only. So yeah, they don't auto detect that. Okay, so I'm just going to go for 192.168 200.11 here, right? And 255.0. So I got that 200.11 and 255.255.250 here, and I'm going to click next. So hypervisor 2 has 200.11, hypervisor 1 has 200.10 for their respective VM kernel adapters. That's it. So, and let's click finito here as well. Right? So I'm going to click finish here, and it's adding the second VM kernel adapter here as well. So that's pretty crucial for the vMotion to work. Without that, vMotion will not work. And once it is added to both hypervisors, the VM kernel adapter that introduces advanced features, and we introduced the advanced feature of vMotion and gave them separate switch and their own 2 dedicated network cards. So then we can just say make sure vSwitch 0 have 2 port groups. Yeah, it's okay, we're done. Remove all other switches. Yeah, we did that and added our own. Make sure our VM has an operating system. I wish we had. Maybe we have, but the thing is, the vMotion works with or without an operating system. The rules are same. My suggestion, if you want to try it with an operating system, after the class or some other time, just install an operating system and then vMotion the machine. The steps are exactly the same. Let's create new data store. Launch. We already have that. Let's move. Okay, so now we're at this portion now we are on this portion of moving the virtual machine from one hypervisor. So let's do the vMotion now, why don't we move it? Okay, that's that portion, right? So okay, and we want to move it. Okay, so anyway, so here ESXi1 we have two virtual machines. Maybe one, you have one, maybe you have two virtual machines here, right? So now we have a virtual machine that is powered on. So there's virtual machine 1 and there's virtual machine 2. So my virtual machine 1 is powered off right now. So let's do a cold migration, which is the machine is powered off and it migrates. Then let's do a suspended migration where your machine is suspended and you migrate. And then let's do a migration with powered on virtual machine, right? So first is the machine is powered off. I'm going to right click here and there's a migrate option for the virtual machine, right? This one. When we migrate, so it asks change compute resource only. Yes, we want this virtual machine to go from hypervisor 1 to hypervisor 2, but it is off right now, right? So click next. The first option is okay. And then it should show us the destination as well. So I'm going to select the destination as ESXi2. Sometimes if it doesn't show the destination, the problem is that your virtual DVD has a Windows 2012 or 2016 ISO attached or mapped. If that ISO is mapped, then it does not actually migrate. So that's another problem with that. So just disable that DVD or remove the ISO, unmap it, and then it will migrate. So ESXi2 here is the destination. I'm going to click next. Yeah, Ramanjot, from where should I repeat? Okay, I'll cancel. So if you're on the virtual machine that is powered off, then right click here and migrate. This is one, right? Powered off machine. And then click next. So it's the top option. That's it. Compute resource means hypervisor, change the hypervisor. And next. Right click the virtual machine and click migrate, right? Okay, and then ESXi2 is my destination because I know that my virtual machine is on ESXi1. And next. Then it says that, hey, you have your virtual machine. Actually, you remember that we attached it to a port group here, VS0, and it says destination network has VS0 as well. We know that destination does not have a VS0. The port group we never created on ESXi2, this port group. So we can say that no, the port group there is VM network. Remember that in ESXi02, the second hypervisor, we never created extra port groups there. So it's not there. We know that. So we're going to select the default port group that is there. So this machine will connect, is supposed to connect directly there. Yes, compute only. No, we don't need sales department, Ramajot. We don't need sales department. If you see already some VM network, you're okay. And so at Sham, just go for drop down here and select VM network. Here, right? Drop down and select VM network. This is the destination. And create sales department. Oh, Ramajot, okay. Yeah, you got it. No. So you didn't create sales department, it doesn't matter. It's okay. If you didn't create a sales department, it will still work. Okay. And I'm just going to click next. And pretty much that's the last screen. And finish. So after finish, we're expecting that powered off machine to be on the second hypervisor, right? So go ahead and click finish. And it should be moving towards that. Then we're going to power it on and then migrate again. I'm going to click finish. And if I just expand the other hypervisor, yeah, there you go. So machine is here, right? So this is the first thing. Second thing is we can right click on top of this and power it on. Go ahead and power on the machine that has been successfully migrated to ESXi2. Power on. Ready? So VM0 that was powered off and we migrated from ESXi1 to ESXi2. Now I'm going to power it on and we can migrate it back from E6i2 to E6i1. So once you power it on, then right click again, exactly the same steps now, go to migrate. Once it is on E6i2, now our destination is E6i1, right? But it's powered on now, and migrate. So change, compute, resource only, exactly the same options. Next, the destination now will be where we came from, E6i1. Currently connected device CD DVD drive 1 uses backing. You can see that I am seeing that error that I was saying there. Oh, actually everyone is seeing that. Okay, so guys, what I was saying before, that if the ISO of any operating system is attached to the CD DVD of this virtual machine, then it can give this error that I'm not going ahead if you're not fixing this, right? Although the next is actually not grayed out. If I click next, yes, now it says you ain't going ahead until you fix this, right? So what we can do is we can cancel this and go to virtual machine edit settings, and then the CD DVD portion, we're gonna go there, and then we're gonna try to disable it or change it. So let's cancel it from here. So let's go for deshoot. So I'm gonna right click on this virtual machine and click edit settings. So Monday or Sunday it's gonna open. Okay, so I can see that there is CD DVD here. I can see that there's host device written here. So what I can do is I can uncheck the connected button, right? So it's not connected. So what I'm essentially saying to the vMotion, hey vMotion feature, just don't see that what is connected here in my CD DVD, forget it, and let me migrate, right? It's not that important that I should keep it connected. So once you uncheck that CD DVD here, the connected checkbox, uncheck that, then press O and K, right? Then press OK, and you know what, just click this refresh button here. Refresh, we refresh, right? And then we can just try that again if this error comes again or not. So I'm going to right click here and migrate. Sometimes it detects right away, sometimes it does not detect. It becomes nasty then. Compute resource only. From where we remove the CD-ROM, see this, it's right click here and go to edit settings here. Right click the virtual machine, go to edit settings, and then there's a CD-ROM DVD, right? This one. So uncheck this connected button. It was checked, so uncheck it, right? Cool. Okay, so once it is unchecked, I'm gonna right click here, make sure that you refresh once more here, and then migrate, and hopefully that doesn't come. It may come still, so I'm just gonna click next on change compute resource only. And my destination now is E6i1, right? I'm on E6i2. So it says compatibility check succeeded now. Then click next. And yes, it lets us go ahead. So we're just saying that, hey, what is the destination network on the other side? Yes, it is VM network is the, it's also there. This port group is also there on the E6i1. So we're good. And click next. And schedule vMotion with high priority. Schedule vMotion with high priority, which is okay. Otherwise, you can go for high priority, means more CPU and RAM will be given to it. So yes, next. That's it. And click finish. Right? Go ahead and click finish. So the powered on machine should be now expecting the powered on machine to be traveling over the network to the other one. Relocate machine. The recent task is showing you that. Recent task is showing you. And okay, so Navdeep gets error. That is a general system error occurred, PBM error occurred during pre-migrate check callback, unexpected, and a 0 request failed, ouch. Oh, right. And you're moving from the powered off machine, one powered off machine to another. So hopefully your all migration steps and vMotion configuration steps are good. So you can refresh or sign out, sign in, and then try again if all the steps were exactly the same. Otherwise, you can follow the video when it releases and try again. Refresh if every step was same exactly as ours. Try to sign out, sign in, and then come back. Alright. Guys, yes, it's back. So powered on machine, the vMotion works as well. That's pretty cool because that's the most sensitive process here, right? And then there's a process of cross-host, right? So cross-host, the third one is if we right-click again. Now we're gonna do 2-in-1, right? What is 2-in-1? We right-click this and migrate again now. But what do we do this time? We're gonna do two things in one go. What are those? The third option here. Change both compute resource storage, which means please move the virtual disk of this virtual machine, and they're gonna ask which data store you want the virtual disk of this virtual machine to go to. It's gonna ask that in this wizard. So they're saying that not only change the hypervisor from 1 to 2, but also change its virtual disk from one data store to another data store. So that's our other scenario where we're just, so then they're asking, do you want to move the virtual machine first you want to move the virtual machine from one hypervisor to another, or do you want to first move its storage from one data store to another data store? So we can keep it as is, that first the virtual machine will migrate, but then its storage or virtual disk will move from one data store to another. Second data store we're about to tell because it's going to ask here. So let's select the third option, keep it as is, and click next. So Xiang says, yeah, disk is disconnected, DVD drive. Yes, you're good. So try again, refresh. And so it's just asking that compute resource, so we can select the Tor DC and ESXi1. You need to select compute resource ESXi1 here because it is on ESXi1, and click next. Then now it is asking, okay, the storage of the virtual machine, where do you want to move it? So I think it is on DS1 already. If I move it, yes, it is on actually DS0. My virtual machine storage or virtual disk is on DS0. So I'll go for DS2 here, right? DS2 or DS1, whichever is other than the DS0, right? But not the data store one. This is the local data store. We need to stay on LAN based or SAN based data stores. So DS2 here, and click next. We need to select destination. Yeah, we need to select Deepshika, see this? You need to go to Tor DC, and then you need to go to this ESXi1.
We are on ESXi1.
No, this is select computer, so select the destination. Ouch. Okay, you're right, guys. Thank you, Deepshika, for that. It's the destination is asking why. I don't know why I selected ESXi1. Yeah, I forgot. We are on ESXi1. So thank you for reminding that and pointing that out. So guys, we have to go back here and go to ESXi2 as a destination. ESXi1 we already are there. Exactly. So ESXi2 and click next. And then the destination of the storage would be DS2 in my case. Right? DS2 away from the DS0. And click next. So yes, the VM network here, port group here, the same port group here, right? So click next. So that's it. Now 2-in-1 task will happen. So first the virtual machine will change the hosts, then its storage will change from DS0 to DS2 in my case, right? Next and finish. So it does take a little more time. Okay, so both migrations in my case happened successfully. It changed the hypervisors and its data store changed from DS0 to DS2 as well. So that's really good. If there was an operating system inside, it would have taken, or if it was 200 GB or 500 GB or 1 terabyte, it would have taken few hours to show the other data store, right? So this was an empty machine, so that's why it showed right away. So whether you have an operating system or not, the configuration outside is exactly the same. Okay guys, so today we have, I guess, one screenshot only. And screenshotting also kind of, no, it's okay, we need screenshot because I need to, really. So guys, this view where you have E6i1 powered on, or virtual machine powered on, and the data store on the right side is showing the destination data store, so we can take a screenshot too of that, right? So take a screenshot too where the virtual machine is powered on and the data store is showing DS2. So vMotion works. Okay, can you show me again? Xiang, from where? So guys, screenshot 2 here, take, and that's it. Upload the screenshots. Xiang, from where? From the data store. Okay, so I'll right click here, right click the virtual machine, Xiang, and go for migrate. And then change both compute resource and storage. Hopefully you selected that. And click next. So third one you selected and click next. Then now in my case I'm on E6i2, so I'm gonna select E6i1. Maybe you're on E6i1, so you can select E6i2. So expand that and just select the destination. It is just asking destination, right? And then click next. So whichever data store your virtual machine is right now you cannot know. So most probably you've also put that storage on DS0. So just go for DS2 here. So select DS2. Mine is on DS2, so I'm just gonna go for DS1. And then it's next, finish. That's all. Next. So yeah, VM network should be the same here. Select networks. And next. Schedule vMotion with high priority. Next and finish. Okay, sure. So let me just take that final screenshot. I'm just going to cancel out from here. And so this is the final screenshot here. Well, the second and final. And that is vMotion works. The name of the screenshot is vMotion works, where the data store is showing and the virtual machine is also showing. Let me quickly take that sample screenshot and name it vMotion works. So screenshot 2. vMotion works. And there's a screenshot, and I will just go for screenshot 2 vMotion works, although that is not really showing vMotion works. It's not exactly showing the vMotion conversion. So that's the screenshot 2, sample screenshot that I've put there, and it says vMotion works. So I'll quickly put that upload link there, and you can upload, and then I'll connect to on this machine, or you can give me the team viewer. Okay. Yes, Navdeep, it's okay. So it's week 8. And inside week 8, I don't know about the older configuration here. Don't upload there. I'll delete that. Assignment. Please upload week 8 and Control C, Control V, and okay. So guys, you can refresh now week 8 and you should be seeing that. Okay. Sylvester says, Rob, can you please send us the slides for our reference? It will be able. Yeah, sure, we'll do. I'll put a slides link there in Blackboard. And Ramanjot says, Amir, can I upload tomorrow? I couldn't do this. Labs. Sure. Should we suspend the machines? Yes, suspend the machines, and yes, you can upload tomorrow. Hey guys, doesn't the slide already exist here? I think learning materials. Oh, there you go. So guys, you can see slides, all slides already in the learning materials area in your course material and getting started, and then there's learning material. Are you able to see that? That's why. Oh no, it is there. Okay. Oh yeah, slides are there. Okay, cool. Thank you for confirming, and upload, and see you next week. So next week is guys, quiz. So you want to have that quiz on Monday, or do you want to have it on some other day? Yeah, midterm quiz. That's midterm. Yeah, midterm is a quiz. So midterm quiz, guys. You want to have it midterm quiz on Monday. So yeah, this coming Monday. So midterm. This is the midterm quiz, and so Monday or some other day. Eris says Monday. Zhang says next Monday, question mark. Yes, next Monday. Oh, okay. Navdeep says Monday. Okay, so 3 votes there. My vote says Monday. So looks like 3 are talking on behalf of everyone. If you guys are all quiet, then okay. So the quiz will be Monday. So my note, if you go to week 8 and refresh, so you should see upload. Okay guys, so the quiz is on Monday, and it will be what time it should be there? What time? So I'll give it 7 to 6 to 7. Normally it was supposed to be 6 to 7, so I'll go for 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Is that okay for everyone? Yes. Okay, thank you. Oh, Orange says 9. Is 8 to 9 okay for everyone? 8 till 9 okay for everyone? Yeah, whatever we have covered till now. Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of okays now. So 8 to 9 p.m. this Monday midterm quiz. So yeah, PPTs are also there, but whatever we covered till now, that will be covered from PPTs, right? Okay. So for how long will we have access to the recordings? Is there a way to download the recordings? Download? Recordings are there forever, and but download. If you know how to download YouTube videos, yeah, you can download that too. Yeah. So there are so many ways to download YouTube videos, right? Sure. Yeah, they're there forever. Okay. So 8 till 9 on Monday, right? Monday. Okay. Done. See you next Monday. Well, this will be just one quiz, and then we're gonna continue with our labs next Monday then. All right. Thank you. Oh, not in Blackboard. What is not in Blackboard? Okay. Then good night. Okay. Good night, everyone. So slides are in Blackboard, and the upload link is on Blackboard, right? All right. Thank you. Bye bye. All right. Okay. Got it. So thank you. Bye bye. Good night. Bye bye. Good night. Good night. Bye bye.
Bye, bye.
Oh yeah, that one. Bye. 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 All right. Upload link will always be available. Yes, Ramajot, it will be available. So, okay, bye, bye.